This is Audible.
Audible Originals presents How to Train Your Mind, written and performed by Chris Bailey.
Introduction: The Monk and the Cup of Tea. I recall the scene as if it were yesterday. It was a sunny day in Ottawa, Canada, where I was living at the time, and I was seated at a small circular table at a quaint coffee shop in the city's Italian district. Across the room from me sat a monk, dressed head to toe in orange robes. Light streamed in through the windows in front of me, which made it difficult to see, so I brought my stuff over to a large, comfortable chair in the corner of the room to enjoy a better seat, get the light out of my eyes, and get a better view of what the monk was up to. Every once in a while, back when I was studying for my business degree, I would camp out at this very cafe with a stack of productivity books and no internet-connected devices. In 4 or 5 hours, flipping through as many of the books as I could, I would obsess over all of the ways I could get more done in less time. This was one such afternoon. With a highlighter in hand, a few books in front of me, and a pen at the ready, I jotted down all of the ways I could live a more productive life, soaking in as much information as I could before heading home and going through my nighttime routines. From when I was a young teenager, I've been obsessed with becoming as productive as possible, and for better or for worse, afternoons like this were one part of that obsession. To the outside observer, there could be no greater contrast between what the monk and I had come to the cafe to do. While I sat hunkered down in front of a book and a notepad, our friend the monk sat across the room, meditatively sipping on his cup of tea. For over an hour, he did absolutely nothing but sip on that tea. I read a book, flipping through page by page until after some time I had finished a chapter. I looked up, and he had hardly made a dent in how much he drank. After some time, I finished highlighting and making notes on another chapter. His water level fell a bit more, though his progress was nothing to write home about. Some more time passed, and I had made some notes about what I was reading. He drank a bit more, but again, not a ton. He went to the counter to fetch more hot water. Then once more, over the next hour or so, he sipped this new cup of tea as slowly as he had the first. I remember thinking to myself, what a complete and utter waste of time. Sure, he might have savored every sip, but he also could have accomplished so much more in that same amount of time. If only he had something better to work on. If he was reading a book about something, anything, he could have been turning himself into a better person. If he was with a friend, he could have been deepening a relationship with someone. If he had been counseling someone in the community, he could have been making somebody's life better. I had something to show for my time at the cafe. All the monk had was a belly full of tea. If I were to go back in time to speak with this younger version of myself at the cafe, it would probably floor him to learn that today I consider myself to be more similar to the monk than to that young, overeager business student devouring productivity books. Back then, I judgmentally considered the monk's activities to be a waste of time. Today, if I'm honest, I think the exact opposite. I'd even make the argument that this monk accomplished a remarkable amount during his quiet couple hours at the cafe, even though it doesn't look like it from the outside. In sipping that quiet cup of tea, he was turning himself into a better, more productive person. He was setting himself up to delve more deeply into his relationships by developing his capacity to focus on them later on. And he did have something to show for his time, especially as far as his productivity was concerned. Perhaps even more than I did. How could this be the case? 35 hours of meditation. There are many reasons someone might take up meditation. Productivity is usually not one of them. Some people are drawn to a meditation practice because they want to understand themselves better or gain wisdom they didn't have before. Others want to establish or deepen their spiritual connection. A few others may gravitate to the practice because it's recommended to them by their physician when they're going through a period of anxiety or depression. I'll chat about how meditation helps with these things later on. While How to Train Your Mind is about productivity, I wasn't first drawn to meditation for that reason. I first took up the practice while reading about ways to manage stress while in university, only a short year or two after observing the quiet monk at the cafe. After stumbling upon a few articles online, on a whim, I ordered a book titled Mindfulness in Plain English, a simple, somewhat hippy-dippy guide on how to meditate. I'll cover how to meditate, which is far simpler than you might think, in greater depth later on in the show. But in a nutshell, the practice simply involves focusing on your breath or on another object of meditation for an amount of time that you predetermine. Each time you get lost in thought, which you will constantly, you draw your attention back to your breathing. That's pretty much it. Doing this lets you step back from the thought patterns in your head, which helps you think more clearly. Meditation can seem hard as hell in practice, but almost stupidly simple in theory. A few months after picking up the book, I had finally integrated a meditation ritual into my own life. The practice did exactly what the research promised. As I learned to train my attention on my breath while sitting during my daily meditation sessions, which were usually just 5 or 10 minutes long, instead of getting caught up in anxious or restless thoughts throughout the day, the negative events of my life affected me less. The highs were just as high, the lows nowhere near as low as they had been before, and my mind settled down. The practice gave me the opportunity to finally chill out a bit. But here's the ironic thing about meditation, or wellness advice in general. Sometimes the advice works so well that you stop doing it. You lose enough weight while on a healthy eating kick that you go back to eating the way you did before. You have enough energy with a regular workout plan that you stop visiting the gym. Or you feel calm enough with a meditation ritual that you stop investing time, energy, and attention in it. A few years into my own ritual, just a couple years after observing the quiet monk in the cafe, I fell into this progress trap. For quite some time, after first picking up that first meditation book, my interests in productivity and meditation have been snowballing in tandem. I found myself picking up more books, devouring more information on meditation, and delving into things even more deeply. Over the ensuing years, my practice grew from 5 minutes a day to 30. But at the same time, having an interest in both meditation and productivity felt akin to practicing a sort of doublethink. On the surface, I believed, productivity and meditation are about as different from one another as you can get. I felt like I was trying to be both the productivity-obsessed student and the monk at the exact same time. It was my belief that productivity was about getting more done, while meditation involves turning your attention inward and doing as little as possible. I thought meditation was about slowing down, while productivity was about speeding up. Sadly for me, several years into my practice, my interest in productivity won out. I deemed it to be more important and began to take my meditation practice for granted. It didn't help matters that I had just started a 1-year sabbatical to explore the world of productivity advice. A short while later, I stopped meditating entirely. In the ensuing weeks, after stopping my daily 30-minute practice, I noticed a few unexpected things started to happen. One, my energy and motivation began declining and then dropped precipitously as I became less aware of my energy levels and stepped back less often to recharge. 2, I became less focused as my mind wandered more often against my will. For this reason, my work took longer to do. 3, I worked more often on autopilot mode in response to the tasks that came my way, instead of intentionally setting a course for what I should be working on. 4, I became distracted far more easily, and having seemingly less control over my attention, wasted more time. 5, I procrastinated far more and spent far more time on pointless tasks and began resisting tasks that were actually important. I gave in to the negative self-talk in my head when it came to tasks that I needed to do but impulsively wanted to put off. In other words, I didn't just become more stressed out. I began to work differently because I had stopped meditating. Observing this behavior in myself motivated me to conduct a simple experiment, to meditate for 35 hours over the span of 1 week, just to see what might happen. For 35 hours, spread across 7 days, I practiced several different styles of meditation and mindfulness, including seated meditation, walking meditation, and mindfully doing chores around the house. Outside of this time, I continued with my work, writing about and researching productivity. Very quickly, I noticed a reversal of the negative effects I mentioned. My mind calmed down. My energy and motivation began to rise once again. I could work more deliberately, and I began to eschew the distractions that arose as I worked. It made total sense to me that I would feel less anxious and stressed out, and this motivated me to keep up with the practice after the experiment concluded. But the work-related productivity benefits of the practice came way out of left field. Since this experiment years ago, I have continued to incubate and research the extent to which meditation helps us work smarter and more deliberately. The more I've dug into this idea, the more I'm convinced that nearly everyone should meditate, particularly those of us who do knowledge work for a living. That's what I hope to convince you of, that you should meditate for productivity reasons. My experiment to meditate for 35 hours admittedly was far from scientific. It was conducted just on me. But it leads to a question. What does the science say about meditation and productivity? And, more specifically, what can the science tell us about how such a simple practice influences the ways in which we work? It was from this spark of an idea that this project was born. About this retreat. You may notice, while listening to this Audible original, that instead of referring to it as an original or an audiobook, that I call it a retreat. That's because I've designed it from the ground up to be a short, self-contained meditation retreat of sorts. During a meditation retreat, you have the opportunity to develop or deepen your meditation practice, usually under the guidance of a teacher. While most retreats are longer than the one you're listening to, which runs just a few hours, they contain some of the same elements, including guided meditations and helpful tidbits about how to practice meditation and how a practice can help you out. Before we dig into the science of how meditation influences our productivity, let's go over how this retreat is structured. Sure, you could just tap on the chapters tab at the bottom of the Audible app, but it's worth providing a lay of the land for what's to come, so you can have a framework in your mind to fill in with the episodes ahead. Here's what you'll find in the next 4 episodes. We'll start by talking about the productivity benefits of meditation, digging into exactly why a meditation practice is worth your time. I'll show you how a meditation practice actually saves you time. I want to reiterate that How to Train Your Mind focuses mainly on how meditation helps you become more productive. I'll cover many of the other benefits you'll experience, but these aren't the primary focus of the book. The practical, tactical, performance-related benefits of a meditation practice are. In the second chapter, How to Meditate, I'll of course show you how to meditate and also how to practice mindfulness, a type of meditation that has most of the same benefits. Starting up a practice is easier than you might think, as you'll quickly find out. This chapter will contain everything you could possibly need to get started. Chapter 3, Thinking Too Much, explores what you'll notice after you've been practicing meditation for a while, zeroing in on how you will experience greater clarity of thought. My aim for this section is to provide you with even more encouragement after you learn how to meditate. A great deal of our thoughts are unnecessary and get in the way of our work and life. I purposely didn't front load the show with the benefits of meditation because I want you to get started quickly. The final chapter, Making It Stick, covers a few ways to make meditation a habit. I'll provide some tips and insights that I've learned the hard way, as well as answer the questions I had myself when I first got started, before sending you on your merry way. The reason for this retreat's existence is simple. Meditation has helped me an inordinate amount, especially with regard to my productivity. I'm confident that it'll help you out in many of the same ways. I'm not a monk who has been exploring meditation his whole life, and although I've led many meditation sessions in the past for everyone from groups of high school students to Fortune 500 executives, I don't consider myself to be a professional meditation teacher. But despite this, I feel equipped to impart the knowledge I've accumulated because I've always approached meditation from a singular vantage point. How I can use the practice to become more productive while experiencing some of the other benefits of the practice as a bonus. For better or for worse, I don't consider myself to be a highly spiritual person. I'm just fascinated with the science of how meditation helps us focus more deeply, live a better life, and accomplish more, while making us happier and more relaxed in the process. For years, I've been digging into how to extract as many practical benefits from meditation as possible. That is the intention I've held in mind as I've attended in-person meditation retreats, coached executives on adopting a practice, and developed a daily meditation practice myself. I hope you'll find that this retreat helps you experience similar productivity-related benefits while also settling your mind, letting you better organize your thoughts, and allowing you to feel more at ease. At the end of the day, I hope that this retreat does two things for you. First, I hope you'll find that it respects your time. One of my biggest pet peeves with productivity books is when they're full of fluff, when you have to wade through countless stories and anecdotes to get to the actual bits of advice. For this reason, while I'll share a few stories of how my meditation and mindfulness practices have helped me out with the intention of keeping you entertained and curious, I'll try to keep the fluff to a minimum. My second goal is to be as practical and tactical as possible. Unlike with most other books on meditation, this one isn't available as a physical or ebook. There's a really good reason for this. Meditation only works when you do it. Many books have been written about the topic, but embedded within each of those books is an inherent weakness. Meditation is not just a topic you need to be knowledgeable about. It's something you have to actually practice in order for it to work. Reading or listening to a meditation book is fine, and doing so can help you develop a new meditation practice or deepen your existing one. But you need to end up actually trying meditation out, otherwise the time you spend reading about it is wasted. Given that an audiobook about meditation can contain guided meditations that show you how to get started with a practice, including how to sit, what to do when thoughts come up, and how to get back on track when your mind wanders, this is the perfect medium for a book on meditation. You'll find the occasional short guided meditation throughout the episodes. They're designed to be listened to as you learn more about meditation and how it influences how you work. These episodes will allow you to try the practice on for size, and as the book progresses, will reveal how to meditate one small step at a time. They're all easy to do and quite short, and they build on one another. After you finish listening, most of your meditation sessions will likely be self-guided. You probably won't need to rely on guided, pre-recorded meditations for your own meditation practice, though if you prefer them to sitting in silence, that's cool too. Either way, I'm confident you'll find these short episodes helpful as you develop your practice. At the risk of using a childish analogy, think of them as training wheels for your meditation habit. Obviously, you can and should skip these guided meditations if listening to them isn't safe, like if you're listening to this while driving or at the gym. These little interstitial episodes require your full attention. But if you need to skip them, do revisit them later on, if at all possible. I obviously can't make you do anything, but I really do encourage you to try out these short guided meditations. They'll easily double or triple how much value you get out of the show. Let's dive into one of these guided meditations now. It's just 2 minutes. In fact, they all are, and it'll provide you with a short overview of how to meditate before we dig into all of the ways a practice will help you out. All right, so welcome. This is the first guided meditation. They're all pretty short, and there's just a few of them. But the purpose of this one is to notice the ways in which your mind wanders. This is the default state of our mind. If you just let your mind be, it'll wander all over the place, to the past, to the present, to the future. So grab a seat. All of these sessions will be done in a chair, and close your eyes right now. Arrive at this moment. You can close your eyes all the way, but if you're feeling a bit sleepy right now, leave them open just a bit to let some light in. And if you're resistant to the practice, which is totally fine, I was resistant at first with observing that monk in the cup of tea, just approach this with an open mind and see what happens. In this session, we won't be meditating completely anyway. We'll just kind of be practicing a bit of mindfulness and noticing how busy our mind is. So now, I want you to draw your attention away from the meaning behind what I'm saying to the thoughts passing through your head. We'll be doing this for just a couple minutes, and I'll set a timer right now for 2 minutes, and go. So turn your attention inward. What thoughts are passing through your mind? In a way, meditation is a way of noticing and then getting acquainted with the color commentator who lives in your head. And during this short session, I want you to listen to that color commentator. I'll be pausing for a bit between what I'm saying. What kind of things does your mind bring up right now? Just notice where it goes. How often does it wander to the past? What about the future? Is it dull? Is it blank? What about the present? Is it restless right now? Is it thinking about how weird this exercise is? Is it thinking about what you're going to do after? Or is it calm? Notice all you can about what's going on in your mind. I'll give you 20 seconds. Great. And with that bell, that marks the end of the first guided session. Now, if you do want to go a bit deeper right now, 2 minutes isn't a ton of time. I'd encourage you to pause at the end of this chapter to check up on your mind a bit more. How you're feeling, how busy your mind is, whether you're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or restless. This is a great way of checking up on how you're doing. The state of our attention is what determines the state of our lives. And so the calmer your mind, the calmer you'll feel as well. But whatever passes through your mind, just know that it's often random and it's always okay. Episode 1, the productivity benefits of meditation. Meditation is a simple practice that will change how you work for the better. At the same time, it's a habit that requires time and effort. And of course, that's time and effort you could be spending on other things, like getting actual stuff accomplished. For this reason, it's worth stepping back to evaluate whether the primary assumption we're making is true, whether meditation is worth doing for productivity reasons. There is a question you can ask to measure the usefulness of any productivity tactic. For every minute you spend on a piece of productivity advice, how many minutes do you get back? The best productivity advice is time negative. In other words, it more than pays for itself. The more time you get back from investing in a productivity tactic, the more helpful it is. You need to at least break even for a productivity tactic to be worth your time. A great example of a productivity strategy that more than pays for itself is mapping out your day by setting a few intentions and planning your schedule each morning. For each minute you spend planning out your day, you'll earn several back. This is true only up to a point, of course. If you spend 5 hours of each day planning, you've obviously taken things too far. The returns on the tactic diminish past a certain point, much as they do with all productivity tactics. But, assuming you don't go overboard, planning earns you back a good amount of time. You spend less time on busy work. You identify which tasks and projects are worth working on, and you work with a greater clarity and confidence because you know you're spending your time on important tasks. Becoming intentional about how you spend your days takes more effort than working on autopilot mode. That's why not everyone does it. But in general, those who set intentions for the day accomplish more than those who do not. A piece of productivity advice that falls on the other side of the spectrum, reading about other people's daily rituals. While entertaining, as far as your productivity is concerned, you probably won't ever get this time back. Reading about how Oprah or Richard Branson spend their mornings likely won't give you the practical, tactical advice you need to work or live more intelligently and deliberately. Everyone's work and life are structured differently, and not everyone has a team to help them get stuff done or the freedom that comes from having billions of dollars in the bank. I've spent the last 10 years filtering through most of the productivity advice out there in order to separate what works from what doesn't. I can confidently tell you that much of the advice out there falls into this latter category, which I call productivity porn. Productivity porn is fun to read about or listen to, but you can say goodbye to most of the time you spend on it. On top of reading about other people's routines, life hacks fall squarely into this category, as does a lot of advice on how to organize your day. Organizational advice is fine, but it's also possible to over-organize your life and create more work for yourself in the process. The reward for practicing productivity advice shouldn't be that you have more work to do. It should be that you accomplish everything you have to do in less time so you can create more time for what's meaningful to you. As a side note, this is why it's critical to have a reason for wanting to become more productive before you invest in any productivity strategy. To paraphrase Heyman Sunim in his book, The Things You Can See Only When You Slow Down, it's often a cruel irony that the reward for working hard is often more work. It's helpful to be aware of how you work differently as you try out different productivity strategies. Given that productivity advice is highly personal, it's important to bring some awareness to whether different productivity tactics actually help you accomplish more, or whether they just make you feel more productive by making you busier. Measuring knowledge work. In theory, measuring productivity advice is simple. You just have to look at how much time you earn back. But in practice, because so many of us do knowledge work for a living, it's downright difficult to measure how our productivity changes as we deploy different tactics. Chances are you do knowledge work for a living. Knowledge work is mentally taxing work that you perform with your mind, rather than simple repetitive work you do with your hands. If you do knowledge work, you essentially think for a living. Examples of jobs that fall into this category include computer programmers, scientists, academics, and pharmacists. Before knowledge work came along, productivity was pretty easy to measure. If you worked in a factory making widgets, and you produced 10 widgets in a day instead of 5, you were twice as productive. When our work is comprised of repetitive tasks that don't engage our mind, the faster and harder we work, the more productive we become. With knowledge work, this equation no longer holds true. In fact, By working harder and faster on knowledge work, you can often accomplish less than you would working slower and more deliberately. Knowledge work benefits more from deeper thinking than it does from speed. It's aided more by creativity than it is by automaticity, and it benefits more from deliberateness than it does from us working with directionless hustle on whatever work happens to fall into our lap. This is especially true when we have more work to do than time to do it in. When we try to measure how productive we are doing knowledge work, things quickly fall apart. For example, let's say that you're a writer. All day long, you toil away at a document, and at the end of one day, when all is said and done, you end the day having written just 271 words. On the surface, that's terrible. A lot of emails are longer than that, for God's sake. Stephen King writes thousands of words a day. Writing just a few hundred words a day, you don't have a hope in hell at being as productive as him. Except this isn't necessarily true. Sure, those 271 words you wrote could have been a crappy Instagram caption about a sandwich you ate. But the opposite could also be true. Perhaps the year is 1863, your name is Abraham Lincoln, and the words you wrote were the Gettysburg Address, one of the shortest and most influential speeches in American history, one that clocks in at precisely 271 words. Another great illustration of how challenging it can be to measure knowledge work comes from a story from employees at Apple. Back in 1982, a bunch of middle managers at the company thought it would be a good idea for programmers to submit how many lines of code they wrote at the end of each week, so management could keep tabs on how much work their programmers performed. The teams were facing a tight deadline, and management understandably wanted everyone to perform at their peak. One programmer, Bill Atkinson, was among this group of programmers. One of the most renowned computer programmers in history, Bill is known for designing and developing the graphical user interface for the Apple Lisa, the computer which preceded the original Apple Macintosh. He is also one of the first 30 programmers on the original Macintosh team. Rightfully so, Bill thought lines of code were a ridiculous measure for how productive programmers are, much as an end-of-day word count is for a writer drafting an influential speech. As Andy Hertzfeld, another member of the original Macintosh team, recounted, Bill, quote, thought his goal was to write as small and fast a program as possible, and that the lines of code metric only encouraged writing sloppy, bloated, broken code, end quote. The first week that Bill filled out the form designed by middle management, he had completely rewritten an algorithm, and as a result of this, the part of the application he worked on performed 6 times faster. Better yet, the improved algorithm performed this work with fewer lines of code, so the program required less space to run. The number that Bill wrote down when he filled out the management form for the first time? -2,000. The lesson here is simple. Yes, knowledge work is notoriously difficult to measure, but more importantly, in thinking about our productivity, we should look beyond just how much we produce every week. Productivity isn't about how much we produce. It's about how much we actually accomplish. After all, we can produce responses to email or Slack messages all day long and not accomplish a single thing. Productive work is work that makes a difference. Training your mind. Because it's difficult to measure knowledge work itself, we should instead turn to how meditation changes the ways in which we work and how it influences what contributes to our productivity. By looking at research surrounding exactly how meditation changes how we work and how it conditions our mind to think more productively, we can make some inferences into just how many minutes a meditation practice can save us each day, if it does indeed save us any at all. In framing the benefits of meditation, it's helpful to view meditation as a powerful mental conditioning program, rather than a spiritual practice that happens to help with productivity. This is not to discount the spiritual benefits of a meditation or mindfulness practice, but for our purposes here, viewing mindfulness and meditation as a form of mental conditioning is a more helpful frame for the ideas I'll cover in this retreat. Nearly every single professional athlete invests in mental conditioning programs with the intention of enhancing their performance. Athletic mental conditioning programs, which often involve meditation, help athletes do things like foster positive internal self-talk, manage the anxiety that comes along with performing at a high level, and develop the ability to remain calm and focused when things get tough. Of course, each sport differs in terms of how much physical and mental conditioning contributes to performance. A sprinter may find that her performance is 70% physical and just 30% mental, given that physical conditioning helps her that much. On the other hand, a golfer who finds himself struggling with internal self-talk leading up to each shot may find that his game is only 40% physical and is 60% mental. No sport is 100% physical. Every single sport has a mental component, and athletes who neglect this component do not perform at their peak. This kind of thinking is helpful if you're an athlete, but chances are you're not a professional athlete. You probably do knowledge work for a living. Unlike with athletic work, knowledge work usually does not have a physical component. Physical conditioning does provide us with mental energy to get things done, and moving more throughout the day helps mitigate the adverse effects of sitting on our butts for hours on end. But with knowledge work, physical conditioning matters only insofar as it helps us mentally. While many of us invest in our physical conditioning, albeit usually not for productivity reasons, few of us train and condition our minds. We may invest in deepening our skills, but most of us do little to cultivate mental qualities that enhance our everyday performance. We make back so much time when we meditate for this simple reason. We have less control over our minds than we believe we do. This is why it is so critical that we condition our mind to perform optimally. If you believe that you have complete control over your mind, try sitting down and focusing only on your breath for 5 minutes. Or reflect on how many times your focus wandered against your will during the short guided meditation that followed the last episode, or even just how many times it has wandered as you've listened to this book. Let's take a stab at figuring out how many minutes we earn back with each minute of meditation by looking at the precise ways meditation helps us condition our mind. Measuring meditation. If you're just getting started, a daily 20-minute meditation practice may sound like a lot of time, and it is, even if you've been meditating for a while. That's a whole episode of a TV show, the length of a short energizing workout at the gym, or an amount of time you could be using to mentor an employee on your team, or have a meaningful phone call with a loved one. Though much has been written about the benefits of practicing meditation, unfortunately, it's worth taking many articles and even many research studies about meditation with a grain of salt. I'm a big fan of research. In my eyes, most productivity advice that isn't rooted in science is a waste of your time. Sadly, though, most scientific studies on meditation leave quite a bit to be desired. Many studies don't use control groups, which means the effects of meditation cannot be isolated. Other studies don't involve nearly enough people, and as a result, they cannot reliably measure the effects of meditation. Other studies only measure the effects of meditation immediately following a practice. This is typically done out of convenience, but it means that the lasting effects of meditation aren't measured. On top of this, some studies are conducted on clinical populations while others are conducted on non-clinical groups, which makes it difficult to wade through the studies that do exist. Given that there is a lot of hype surrounding the topic of meditation, it's not a surprise that some of the benefits of a practice are overhyped as well. Despite what you might have heard, meditation is not some wonder drug and it won't fix up all of the ailments you face. For example, despite what some individual studies and articles may show, there is only a small amount of evidence that meditation will help you remember more, recall more information, make you more intelligent, or help you regulate your emotions better. But with that said, the practice will help you out in several areas, many of which contribute to productivity and overall quality of life. One of the most surprising discoveries I made in digging into the meditation research is that most styles of meditation will help us out in similar ways. In terms of the scientific benefits you will experience, what style of meditation you practice doesn't make too much of a difference. There are just a few exceptions to this rule. If you're interested in lowering how neurotic you are and how many negative emotions you experience, transcendental meditation is the style most worth practicing. If you're looking to improve your psychological well-being, mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, is most worth doing. Similarly, mindfulness meditation, the style we'll be digging into in this retreat, and one of the most popular styles of meditation around the world, is worth practicing for productivity reasons. The reason mindfulness meditation will aid your productivity the most is that there is one benefit in particular that is the strongest with mindfulness meditation. That effect is that mindfulness meditation makes you significantly more, wait for it, mindful. Every style of meditation will make you more mindful, so much so that if you practice a different style already, it probably isn't worth switching over, even though switching over is pretty easy. But if you're adopting a meditation practice for the first time, mindfulness meditation is the one most worth adopting for its productivity benefits. Mindfulness is the benefit of meditation that will help you earn back the most time. While meditation makes you more mindful automatically, it's worth going over what that even means. People make mindfulness out to be far more complicated than it has to be. Mindfulness is simply being able to notice what's on your mind. In other words, in a given moment, it's noticing what your mind is full of. When you notice your thoughts, you're mindful. When you notice how you're feeling, you're mindful. When you notice what you're sensing, what you see, hear, smell, taste, and feel, you're mindful. Mindfulness is noticing the thoughts, feelings, and perceptions that pass through your mind without getting caught up in them. You did some of this in the first meditation. There is nothing that passes through your mind that is not a thought, feeling, or perception. Every single moment of every single day is some tangled up combination of all three. For now, though, you just need to know that by meditating, you'll become more mindful automatically. When it comes to productivity, the practice of mindfulness, noticing what's on our mind, is invaluable. Another word for mindfulness, which I prefer because it's loaded with fewer pre-existing notions, is metacognition. Metacognition just means thinking about thinking. When we meditate, we step back from the thoughts passing through our mind and notice them. And in doing so, we don't get caught up in them. When we're cognizant of our thoughts, they don't take us for a ride. As you learn to step back from the thoughts passing through your mind during meditation, you condition your mind to do this the rest of the day too. As I'll explore in episode 3, our mind automatically and compulsively generates thoughts in response to what happens around us, and many of these thoughts are counterproductive and derail our work. This is the way that meditation conditions our mind. The more we're able to step back from our thoughts, the less likely we are to get bogged down by overthinking. We're also able to notice more quickly that we've gotten distracted and that our mind has wandered. For these reasons, meditation helps us focus more deeply and also get back on track more quickly. It's possible to actually quantify how much time you'll gain back as you become more mindful through meditation. The latest research shows that throughout the day, we focus on what's in front of us just 53% of the time. The rest of the time, our mind is wandering, usually without our awareness or permission. The more metacognizant you are of what you're thinking, the more quickly you're able to realign your attention to focus on what's in front of you. Given that calculating the time return of meditation is tricky, I'll be conservative in my estimates. This way, we won't overestimate how much time you'll get back from the practice. Let's say that your daily 20-minute meditation practice makes you just 30% more mindful, and as a result, you're able to focus that much more. You notice more quickly when you've gotten distracted or your mind wanders. You develop an ability to focus on work for longer periods of time by training your mind to focus on your breath. When you do get distracted or fall into working on unimportant tasks, you notice more quickly you've veered off course. And you'll enter into a state of hyperfocus more often where you become completely absorbed in what you're doing. If you become just 30% more mindful and focused because of your daily 20-minute practice, you'll focus on what's in front of you for about 69% of the day instead of 53%, the average. This increase may not sound like a lot, but it is nice. If your workday is 8 hours long, your daily meditation ritual will save you over 76 minutes each day because you'll be focused for that much more of the day. Already in our calculation, for each minute of 20 that you spend meditating, you earn back almost 4. All right, so you're beginning to notice more of your thoughts instead of becoming immersed in them. You're focused for longer and your mind wanders for shorter periods of time. And you get back on track more quickly after getting distracted because you quickly notice what your mind is up to. But this is not the only benefit you'll experience. One of the other most fruitful benefits of meditation is that focusing on more complex projects will come easier because your mind will also be able to process more in each moment. Research suggests that a regular meditation practice increases your brain's working memory capacity. This is how much you're able to process and store in your mind at one time by more than 30%. A larger mental scratch pad helps immensely with projects that benefit from our full, hyper-focused attention. After all, we're able to hold and connect more information in our mind at one time. We're also able to switch between tasks more seamlessly. Let's say, again, conservatively, that being able to hold and process 30% more in your head saves you another 45 minutes a day. This is a very conservative estimate. Having 30% more mental storage capacity in each moment is likely to save you quite a bit more, especially when you account for the other ways that having a large working memory capacity helps us. The larger our working memory, the longer we've been shown to focus on one thing for. The more we think about the future when our mind does wander, so we plan more often as a result, and the fewer cringeworthy memories our mind brings up from the distant past as we're trying to focus. When you add the 45 minutes you'll save by expanding your mind's working memory capacity, you'll now earn back over 6 minutes for each minute you spend meditating. And we're not done yet. A third primary benefit of meditation is that it makes our mind less stimulated. The reason that we so often fall victim to distraction is that distraction stimulates our brain's desire for novelty. This is even true on a chemical level. Our mind actually rewards us for paying attention to distractions that derail our focus and productivity. Each time we direct our attention at something new and novel, our mind rewards us with a hit of dopamine, a reward chemical found in our brain. Each time we look at the myriad novel pictures those we follow have uploaded to Instagram, we get a hit of dopamine. We continue to get hits of dopamine each time we check our email, refresh Facebook, and open Twitter. When we meditate, we make our mind a bit less stimulated. The time that we spend focusing on our breath is time that we spend settling our mind. Because in that time, we don't tend to any novel distractions that feed our brain's novelty bias. This trains our mind to seek out fewer distractions in the future because we get accustomed to getting by with less dopamine coursing through our brain. In the modern world, we need to take advantage of any opportunity we can to settle our mind. Meditation is one such opportunity. A mind that is less stimulated does not crave distraction nearly as much. Studies show that each time we tend to a distraction that derails our focus completely, we lose 25 minutes of productivity. On average, this is how much time it takes us to get back on track and resume working on the original task we got distracted from. For the purposes of our calculation, let's say that because you seek out fewer distractions, you prevent yourself from becoming distracted just one time each day. Again, this is a remarkably conservative estimate. We now save over 7 minutes for each minute of our 20-minute meditation practice. On top of working with focused attention, a larger working memory, and a less stimulated mind, meditation provides us with countless other productivity-related benefits. 1. Meditation has been shown to help us with tasks we're more likely to procrastinate on. When we procrastinate, our overthinking goes through the roof. With a consistent meditation practice, we're able to better step back from the overthinking that happens around bouts of procrastination. We can then recognize this self-talk for what it is, unnecessary mental chatter, and focus with greater ease on the task at hand. As a result of this, we become more engaged with tasks that we usually wouldn't find engaging. We get past our negative thoughts involving aversive tasks, while we also tame the negative self-talk that fills our mind surrounding procrastination episodes. 2. Meditation makes us less impulsive. Curiously, research shows that impulsiveness is the character trait that is most highly correlated with procrastination and distraction as well. 3. Meditation makes us more empathetic to how those around us feel, which helps us develop deeper relationships. As a result of considering how others feel, our employees and colleagues feel more connected with us, as well as with the work they're doing. Greater empathy also makes us able to communicate with our teammates, which can lead to a bit of time saved through fewer misunderstandings. 4. Meditation makes us significantly happier. According to Sean Achor, a Harvard-trained happiness researcher, happier people are 31% more productive than those in a negative or neutral mental state because they notice more opportunities around them and feel more energized as they work. Forget about those productivity benefits for a second. Who doesn't want to feel happier? 5. Meditation helps us think clearly. We're able to better organize our thoughts, switch from focusing on one thing to focusing on another more seamlessly, and defragment our thoughts to be able to think clearly about the projects we're in the middle of. This is one of those benefits that once you experience it in your meditation practice will make you not want to stop. There are benefits beyond the ones I've just highlighted, but these are a few of my favorites. Let's say that because you procrastinate less, think more clearly, develop deeper relationships, and become happier, you make back just another 35 minutes each day. This is the last bit of time we'll add to our calculation. In adding up all of these numbers, something quickly becomes clear. Regardless of how conservative your estimates are, you gain back an inordinate amount of time through your meditation practice. By just my own very conservative estimates, for each minute we spend meditating, we make back 9 minutes because we're that much more focused and productive. Even if we made just 2 minutes back, meditation would be worth practicing for productivity reasons. When we make back 9, it's an absolute no-brainer. No matter which way you cut it, meditation is a practice that will lead you to better manage your time, attention, and energy. As a side note, if you still find yourself saying that you don't have time for meditation, this is really just a kind of mental resistance talking. We resist things that are hard, meditation included, and often tell ourselves stories that we don't have time to do tasks that we find aversive, such as read a good book, or grab a coffee with somebody we haven't seen in a while, or clean out a basement closet. We do, in fact, have the time. In the moment, we would just rather spend it doing something else. When it comes to meditation, this is especially the case. Meditation is powerful not in spite of it being hard. It's powerful because it's hard. If you think you don't have time to meditate, you're wrong. Of all of the productivity tactics I've experimented with over the last decade, I have found meditation to provide the greatest return in terms of how many minutes of productivity provides back. Don't buy into the mental resistance in your head. 3 meditation boosters. A regular meditation practice will significantly aid your performance at work. But there are 3 other factors that have the potential to boost how helpful you'll find a meditation practice that will help you earn back more time beyond the first 9 minutes. The first factor is the types of tasks you do at work. In particular, the percentage of your tasks that have an emotional component or require you to work autonomously or involve deep knowledge work. The greater the proportion of tasks in your work that are knowledge work related, the more tasks that require deep, thoughtful concentration rather than repetitive action, the greater that meditation will aid your performance. No job is comprised solely of knowledge work. Even the most brain-heavy jobs involve some mindless, repetitive tasks. But generally speaking, the more thinking the tasks in your work require, the more meditation will help you. The more emotional your work can be, the more helpful you'll find meditation to be as well. Knowledge work and emotional work usually go hand in hand because complex jobs almost always involve making personal connections with others and can surface challenging emotions such as frustration, anger, and envy. On top of this, you're likely to find many tasks difficult to focus on because they're aversive to do. Meditation lets you insert some space between yourself and these feelings of resistance, while helping you feel more empathetic to feelings and needs of others you connect with. Finally, the more autonomy you have with your work, the more helpful you'll find meditation. Meditation has been shown to automatically lead you to think more about the future, particularly when your mind is reflecting and wandering, which allows you to chart a more deliberate course for the direction you'll take your work. Meditation is a practice that will help you out regardless of the breakdown of work you do. But generally speaking, the more knowledge-based, autonomous, and emotional your work is, the more helpful you'll find a practice to be. The second factor, which boosts how helpful you'll find meditation, is how stressful you find your work and life. The greater the number of stressors you face at work and at home, or the more stressed you are in general, the more that worrying and rumination will hijack your attention throughout the day. Our mind always devotes some background processing to the problems we're in the middle of solving. This is a helpful tendency. By storing our problems front of mind, we think about them more often and become more likely to solve them as we recall them throughout the day. But this tendency also distracts our attention as we try to focus. The more stressful you consider your life to be, the more meditation will help you. This finding was recently validated by no organization other than the American Medical Association, which found the stress relief benefits of meditation to be so powerful that, quote, clinicians should be prepared to talk with their patients about the role that a meditation program could have in addressing psychological stress, end quote. The third factor that influences how much time you earn back is how many negative feelings and sensations you experience on a regular basis. Meditation is especially powerful for those who experience anxiety, frequent negative emotions including depression, and, believe it or not, even physical pain. I know dozens of people who have tried meditation on for size, and something I've found curious is how meditation sticks for only about half of them. If I were to divvy up the people I know who have tried meditation, half of them swear by their practice and meditate regularly, while the other half have tried it out and found that it didn't stick. There are many reasons why this may be the case, including that the ways meditation helps us are numerous and subtle, and so they are hard to notice at first, or that some people are simply more open-minded to the benefits of a practice. But in continuing to research the topic over the past several years, I've come to believe that there may be another factor at play. In clinical settings, meditation has been shown to serve as a helpful remedy for 3 specific things: anxiety, depression and negative emotions, and physical pain. Because meditation is more helpful for those facing these 3 challenges, it may be more likely to stick for this group of people, and as a result, they're more likely to swear by the practice. The same will hold true for you. If you experience anxiety, negative emotions, and physical pain on a regular basis, you'll find a meditation practice even more helpful, productivity-related benefits aside. Meditation helps us cope with anxiety, depression, and physical pain, largely because the practice allows us to step back from our thoughts. By training our mind to focus solely on our breath, we train our mind to not get caught up in thinking. Thinking is powerful and helps us get things done, but when we think too much, experience recursive and repetitive thought patterns, or are simply predisposed to experience a greater proportion of negative thoughts, stepping back from unnecessary thought can help us significantly. This is true even in the case of physical pain, which on the surface involves little thinking at all. While pain is unpleasant, the thoughts that pass through our head about physical pain are often just as unpleasant as the pain itself. If you don't believe that it's possible to think differently about physical pain or see pain in a new light, consider how many people get pleasure from physical pain. They consider pain in an alternative context. It's possible to step back from your thinking about physical pain. If you do experience pain on a regular basis, I'm confident that a meditation habit will serve as even more helpful for you. The tactics in this retreat won't turn you into some sick animal who loves experiencing pain in the name of productivity, but they may help you relate to pain differently and experience a bit less of it. The benefits related to meditation and depression are also fascinating. Of all of the clinical benefits of meditation, the relationship between these two factors is among the most profound. If you have a history of depression, meditation can help you step back from thoughts of inadequacy, guilt, and restlessness. I should preface this bit of advice, as with the rest of the advice in this retreat, by saying that no content in this audiobook should serve as a substitute for advice from a medical doctor or a trained medical professional. You should consult with a doctor before practicing meditation for medical reasons. With this disclaimer out of the way, though, the link between meditation and depression is remarkably strong. One analysis conducted by the American Medical Association, which poured through 30,206 studies on meditation, concluded that the effects of meditation, quote, are comparable with what would be expected from the use of an antidepressant in a primary care population, but without the associated toxicities, end quote. This is absolutely incredible. Like most antidepressants, a meditation practice is unlikely to completely reverse feelings of depression and other negative emotions. But the fact that it helps just as much as an antidepressant should give doctors and patients alike pause. It's worth reiterating once more that these findings were not released by some drugstore magazine. They were published by the American Medical Association, the largest association of physicians in the United States. Anxiety is the third area in which meditation can help. While I don't consider myself a highly anxious person, like anyone living in this modern age, especially right now, I frequently experience feelings of anxiousness. This is one of the reasons I first became curious about meditation, and productivity benefits aside, it's one of the reasons I keep up with my practice. If recent research is to be believed, I'm not alone in feeling anxious. One recent survey found that 60% of college students have experienced overwhelming anxiety in the past year. Another recent report found that 1 in 5 Americans has a clinical anxiety disorder. In recent years, rates of depression, suicide, and loneliness have skyrocketed. And sadly enough, this relationship is especially strong in wealthier countries. At the same time that we're becoming more anxious, the internet fills our mind with novel things to feel angry about, envious of, and worry about, especially as I'm recording this retreat when a pandemic is sweeping the globe and protests against racial injustices are occurring in so many parts of the world. Meditation helps us cope with feelings of anxiety for the same reason that it helps us with depression and physical pain. It gives us a chance to step back from our thoughts. Our thoughts are the lens through which we perceive the world. Physical pain, depression, and anxiety can hijack our thoughts away from the task at hand, while at the same time affecting how we think about and perceive our work, relationships, and life. If you experience pain, depression, or anxiety, you need to try out meditation. It's as simple as that. If the research is any indication, the effects on your life will be profound, perhaps even as strong as a prescribed drug in the case of depression. Depending on your unique situation, meditation has the potential to help you out in ways that transcend your work. If you're a super chill person and you can breeze through work and life with little thought while you live a simple, comfortable, happy life, you'll still experience the productivity benefits of meditation. But you may not get a boost from the factors I talked about in this section. But if the opposite is true, if the depth of your focus and thinking matters, if you occasionally experience anxiety or other negative emotions, or if you face stressors at work or home, you'll find that the practice helps you out quite a bit more. You may end up earning back far more than 9 minutes for each minute of meditation. Diminishing returns and one final benefit. I hope that by now you're convinced that a meditation practice will make you more productive, and that for every minute you spend meditating, you'll get quite a bit more time back and increased productivity. Depending on your unique circumstances, just how many minutes you earn back will vary, but you absolutely will earn back time. There is, of course, one big caveat to this calculation, that the return on your time will not be consistent. Past a certain level of daily meditation, the return on your time will begin to fall. It'd be great if the return on meditation went up regardless of how long you practiced for each day. If you worked 8 hours a day with ever-increasing returns, the ideal working strategy would be to meditate for 7 hours and 59 minutes and work for just 1 minute a day. That way, you can get 72 hours of work done in that 1 minute. Over the years, as I've experienced and experimented with the benefits of meditation, I've personally found the point of diminishing returns to be at around 30 minutes, though it naturally varies depending on what your work and life are like. Before this point, I find that I'm able to earn back an immense amount of time. Past it, I find that it's more helpful for me to get some actual work done. If you're first starting out with meditation, 30 minutes is probably out of reach. At least it was far outside of my reach when I started practicing many years back. And even if it is within your reach, this amount of time may prove a discouraging habit on days you can't wedge a 30-minute sit into your schedule. But I strongly believe that this is a daily level of meditation worth working up to over time. It's a level to strive for a few years into your practice. As you begin to notice the ways that meditation helps you work smarter, I'm confident you'll be encouraged to aim for a similar level. I recommend working up to meditating for at least 10 minutes a day. Research suggests this is about how long we need to meditate for each day in order to experience tangible benefits. That said, any amount of meditation is helpful, even 2 minutes, especially when you're starting out and first getting a feel for the practice. Slowly build up how long you meditate for each day, while keeping in mind that at some point, the returns do begin to diminish. I'd encourage you to meditate less when first starting out so you can notice whether you do in fact earn back time as you work. But after noticing yourself becoming more productive, I know you'll be encouraged to up how many minutes you practice every day. Habits are far more likely to stick when you can notice them working. It's now time to go from chatting about the benefits of having a meditation practice to talking about exactly how to meditate. As a bridge to our way there, it's time for one more quick guided meditation. So now it's time for another quick guided session. In this one, we'll actually be meditating. We'll actually go into the practice instead of just noticing your busy mind. So I will set a timer for 2 minutes and let's go. So right now, sitting down, eyes closed, maybe partly open, I want you to bring your full attention to your breath. The hard part is done. You're here. You've showed up. Now breathe in deeply. And in that long breath in, notice all you can about your breath. How fast is it moving in and out of you? How deep does it go? Your lungs, you feel it in your stomach. Where does it go? How warm or how cool is it? From this point forward, don't try to control your breath. Just notice it. When your mind wanders off, which it absolutely will, bring it back to your breath with a lightheartedness. Our breath is slippery, it's difficult to focus on, and that's the point. Your mind will wander constantly. Just don't get annoyed by it. Get curious by it. Where is your mind going to run off to today? How lost in thought will it become before you notice? So you might have noticed that also wasn't very long at all, but that's on purpose. If these little guided meditation chapters were 10 or 20 minutes long, I bet a lot of people would skip by them. But this is kind of a build your own meditation in a way, because right now I'm going to invite you, before we dig into the next chapter on the details of how to meditate, I'm going to encourage you to pause the retreat and just notice your breath for a few more minutes. And approach this with a curiosity. That's the mental posture that's important here. A curiosity of just what your mind will be like today. And when you're ready, I'll join you in the next chapter. Episode 2: How to Meditate. Observation is a dying art. Stanley Kubrick. A few months ago, I found myself aboard a cramped propeller plane flying to the small town of Cranbrook, British Columbia, population 20,000. Traveling from Vancouver, the passengers on the plane were an eclectic mix of tradespeople, business people, and retirees who had moved to Cranbrook to escape the big city and enjoy a tranquil life beneath the sleepy Rocky Mountains of Western Canada. Seated next to me on the plane was a man of about 60, someone who, at the start of the flight, was about as apologetic, friendly, and conversational as a Canadian can get. For the length of the 1-hour flight, we made the kind of small talk typical of planes, where you can chat with the person next to you about work, the weather, and where you're headed without so much as even learning their first name. Things were quite pleasant until our conversation turned to exactly what we were both traveling to Cranbrook to do. He was going for work. I was flying there for a solo, week-long silent meditation retreat in a small cabin in the mountains. There is a legitimate challenge that one faces when writing about meditation. If you mention the word meditation to 5 different people, they will bring to mind 5 completely different things. People have a lot of preconceived notions and ideas about what meditation is. One of those 5 people may call to mind the image of a monk meditating in a cave in India, completely removed from the outside world. Someone else might think of a hippie wearing a vest and bell-bottom jeans, sitting cross-legged in front of a bowl of burning incense. A third might think of a group sitting around in a circle, chanting mantras in an ancient language like Pali. The fourth person might think of an athlete, sitting quietly with her eyes closed in the locker room before a big game. The fifth, who meditates for productivity reasons, might think of a busy executive sitting on her meditation cushion after work. Meditation is such a loaded term that just mentioning it turns off some people, attracts others, confuses a few others, while exciting a few more. I've come to realize that most people fall into one of 3 categories with regard to how open they are to a meditation practice. The first group of people are those who already practice meditation and mindfulness, or those who have had a practice in the past. As you might imagine, this group is pretty receptive to hearing about how meditation will benefit them on a practical level. If you happen to fall into this category, Regardless of the reason you took up a meditation practice, I hope this book serves as propellant for furthering your ritual and helps you see your practice in a new light. The second group of people are those who are curious about meditation or just open-minded to trying it out. I find that this group of people is especially open to practicing meditation after they hear about its practical, tactical benefits. I've written How to Train Your Mind largely with these folks in mind. If you fall into this category, this retreat should provide you with everything you could possibly need to get started. The third group of people, upon even hearing the word meditation or mindfulness, is completely turned off to the practice. They're often convinced, incorrectly, that the practice has to be religious, spiritual, hippy-dippy, and so it's ultimately not for them. While it's unlikely you fall into this category, it's worth noting that the number of people who meditate has grown by leaps and bounds in recent years, suggesting the practice has won over at least a few initial skeptics. Unfortunately for me, the fellow on the plane next to me fell squarely into this last category. The extent to which he did was actually kind of funny. After mentioning the meditation retreat I was going on, he jumped to the assumption that I was part of a cult and began asking questions like, "So, at this retreat center, do you have to drink the Kool-Aid? And how much of your income do you have to give to your spiritual leader every month? And you know it's not too late to get out of this, right?" While his preconceived notions surrounding meditation are likely a tad more twisted than the average person closed off to the practice, perhaps even hilariously so, they do underscore a very important point worth making, that the person sitting next to me on that plane was a total jackass. I'm just kidding. The point this guy underscored, which I think is worth reiterating here, is that everyone comes to the practice with a different idea in mind for what to expect. So what should you expect? If you've followed along with the 2 guided meditations so far, you've probably noticed how simple meditation is in both theory and practice. All you have to do is focus on your breath. While there are some other things to know, there really isn't more to the practice than this. If you came to this retreat expecting a religious practice or some kind of philosophy to follow, unfortunately, it's going to disappoint. You won't need any incense, bell-bottom jeans, or mantras to get started, unless you're into that stuff, of course. Meditation is not a religion. It's not a philosophy, and it doesn't require you to believe in anything, though knowing the latest science surrounding the practice helps develop a stronger meditation ritual. Meditation is just about focusing on your breath. That is what to expect. There aren't many other notions worth walking into a practice with, though I would be forever grateful if you did give me 10% of your monthly income in the form of a tithe. Regardless of which group you fall into, whether you're a meditation skeptic or believer, I'm confident that you'll soon discover just how basic and uncomplicated a practice can be. Why focus on the breath? Despite all that you're capable of doing and all that you've accomplished in your life so far, I'd wager a guess and say there is one thing you're absolutely not capable of doing. That is focusing solely on your breath for even just a few minutes at a time. As I mentioned earlier, meditation is not a powerful practice in spite of it being hard. It's a powerful practice because it's hard. We can do almost anything for a few minutes except focus on our breath. In fact, of all the things we can do with our time, focusing on our breath is among the most challenging. When we try to focus on our breath, we get bored, anxious, and restless. Our mind wanders off constantly to all of the things we have to do and all of the other things we're stressing out about. And when resisting meditation, our mind feels bored, sleepy, and occasionally even fed up with the practice. The benefits make the practice worth it. After all, it helps us gain greater control over our mind by conditioning our mind to be able to focus. But we do have to work for them. There are many objects that one can focus on during meditation, and what you focus on is largely determined by the type of meditation you practice. The breath is perhaps the most common object of attention across all meditation practices. And this should serve as no surprise. The breath is something we always have with us. When we're not breathing, we have far bigger problems to tackle. And given the breath is simple, it's unlikely to distract us completely. It's a challenging thing to focus on. It is possible to sum up why meditation is so helpful in this one sentence. If you can focus on your breath, you can focus on pretty much anything. That's worth hearing one more time. If you can focus on your breath, you can focus on anything. The breath is such a powerful object of attention during meditation because it's so boring. Paying attention to your breath is about as interesting as staring at a wall or watching paint dry. By focusing on your breath, it is almost a guarantee that your mind will wander. After all, when you meditate, the thoughts and fantasies in your head are far more interesting than what your breath is up to. And on top of this, breathing is something your body does automatically. It's our most basic habit, and as such, it takes no thought whatsoever to do. If you're able to focus on your breath during meditation, focusing on a tedious meeting, a project you've been procrastinating on, or a difficult conversation you've been meaning to have becomes a piece of cake. By continually turning your focus away from the thoughts in your head and toward your breath, you learn to not take thoughts so seriously the rest of the day. While your mind will still generate thoughts in response to what happens around you, you won't take the bad ones so seriously. You'll be able to step back from negative self-talk before you give a presentation to your management team. Turn your attention away from the overthinking going on in your head when you're on a first date or in a job interview, and you become far less likely to talk yourself out of taking that promotion you're afraid of. That would actually be a great opportunity for you. By stepping back from the thoughts flying through your head during meditation, your thoughts don't obscure how you perceive the world the rest of the time. You focus deeper while seeing things more as they are. As you develop the ability to focus on your breath, which can take some time, you naturally and eventually learn to become engaged with your breath. You enjoy the little space between your in and out breaths. You notice the characteristics of each breath flowing into and out of your nose, down your esophagus, into your lungs, and all the way back out again. At this point, you may realize another reason why the breath is such a powerful object of meditation. If you can become engaged with your breath, you can become engaged with pretty much anything. Our breath becomes more interesting as we learn to concentrate on it. It is impossible to both concentrate and feel bored at the same time because when you concentrate, you are engaged with what you are doing. As one Buddhist monk has put it, when you concentrate, even a phone book can be interesting. If you are bored, maybe you are not concentrating. Studies have found that those who meditate even experience flow significantly more often. Flow being that marvelous mental state where you become completely absorbed with a task, so absorbed that you lose track of time, enter into a state of hyperfocus, and accomplish an inordinate amount in a small amount of time. By training your mind to focus on something so tedious and boring as the breath, you become significantly more patient, focused, and engaged as a result. You're not doing it wrong. Before digging into how to practice meditation, it's worth highlighting one final thing that's sure to cross your mind as you meditate. That, on the surface, meditation is completely ridiculous. Remember the story of the monk sipping a cup of tea from the introduction? From the outside in, meditation can look pretty foolish. On the surface, there's no point to someone just sipping on a cup of tea for 30 minutes or an hour. Seated meditation can look just as ridiculous. After all, during that time, it doesn't look like you're accomplishing anything. But meditation doesn't just look ridiculous. You'll also feel ridiculous doing it. For this very reason, for the first few years after I started, I felt as though I was doing it wrong. Thoughts about my practice raced through my head constantly, even when I wasn't meditating. What the hell is the point of this? Is my mind wandering more than normal? Am I doing this right? Is this actually working? Given that meditation is so simple, It's easy to overthink the practice. But remember, meditation is powerful precisely because it's so simple. Meditation is stupidly simple. Even after we dig into how to meditate in more detail, you may find yourself asking, is that it? If I may offer up one lesson that I learned the hard way, don't worry about whether you're doing it right. Bring your full, deliberate focus to your breath, and when it wanders, bring it back. It's in this repeated falling down and getting back up that you'll increase how much control you have over your attention and gain greater awareness of where your mind is wandering to. What you'll need. Mindfulness meditation uses the breath as the object of meditation, so you won't need much to get started. Unless you absolutely want to, you won't need to light a candle, procure any special props, or learn how to focus on your third eye. You'll just need two things, something to sit on and a timer. While there is such a thing as walking meditation, which we'll get to in a bit, seated meditation is by far the most common form of mindfulness meditation. There are three options for what to sit on. The first is a chair. This is a great option for when you're starting out, or if you have back or leg issues that can make it challenging to sit cross-legged for longer periods of time. Choose a chair that provides support without being too comfortable. You don't want to get sleepy. The second option is a meditation cushion, also called a Zafu, which is spelled Z-A-F-U if you want to search for it. These circular meditation cushions are the favored option for experienced meditators. You have little choice but to sit erect, the discs of your spine stacked on top of one another. This makes your practice more disciplined, and a cushion can also keep you alert. I recommend a Zafu filled with buckwheat, as it offers a nice balance of comfort and support. A good meditation cushion will run you about $1,500. I'm just kidding, you're looking at $100 tops, and you can easily find one on Amazon or a plethora of other websites. A third option to consider is a wooden meditation bench. You typically fold your legs underneath the bench while sitting on top. You're kneeling, but the bench absorbs most of your body weight. This takes the pressure off of your legs and knees while keeping your back upright. I personally use a meditation bench. I switched after years on a meditation cushion. I found that a bench provides far more support while also keeping me alert. My bench also travels well. It folds up and has a slim enough profile to fit inside my carry-on luggage. I travel around 50 to 60% of the time for work and love having the bench on hand to meditate in hotel rooms. A meditation bench will run you a bit more than a cushion, but you should still be able to pick a good one up for around $100. All three objects, a chair, meditation cushion, and a meditation bench, are great options. I recommend that you start with a chair and switch to a Zafu after you become more comfortable with your practice, usually after the first couple of weeks. Consider a meditation bench if you have leg problems, travel a lot, or are just looking for something a bit more comfortable. Once you've sorted out what to sit on, you'll need a timer. Meditation is a chance to step back from your thoughts, and constantly checking a clock would defeat the purpose of your practice. I recommend using your phone as a timer. While dedicated meditation timers do exist, I don't think they're necessary. Our phones can be a source of distraction, but these distractions are easily tamed during meditation. Put your phone on airplane mode to prevent new and tempting notifications from popping up. If you still find it difficult to resist fiddling with your phone, put it across the room so you can hear the alarm without being distracted by its presence. If you're still tempted, consider using a watch or a smart speaker to time your session. I recommend choosing an alarm sound that isn't too jarring and one that's different from the alarm you use to wake up. A peaceful sound will ensure your mind remains relatively calm after your meditation session, and choosing a sound unique to your practice will help you feel fresh after each sitting. If using your phone, consider downloading a meditation timer app. Search the App Store on your phone for Meditation Timer, and you'll find dozens of free and paid apps. My favorite is called Insight Timer. It's available for free on both Android and iOS. The app also has some great social features. You can see who is meditating around the world and who's meditating nearby. Keep track of how many days in a row you sit, and use the app with friends so you can hold one another accountable. The app also has a great built-in timer, which features the sounds of traditional meditation bells. Now that you have a timer and something to sit on, it's time to meditate. Next, I'll cover the two main aspects of how to meditate: what to do with your body and what to do with your mind. What to do with your body. Your mind takes cues from your body for how to feel. In this way, the body and mind are connected. If your body is slumped, so too will be your mind. When your posture is alert, your mind will be energetic too. When your body is at ease, your mind will in turn feel more at ease. For example, right now, notice your shoulders. Are they tensed up? If they are, let them rest and relax a little. You'll find that your mind will relax somewhat as a result. If you want to play around a bit with the connection between the body and mind, as an experiment, try meditating while lying down. If you're anything like me, your mind will wander more often, and you'll have to work harder to focus on your breath. To adopt an alert but comfortable posture, regardless of whether you're sitting in a zafu, chair, or stool, sit with your back straight, with the individual discs of your spine stacked on top of each other. Don't force your spine into a straight line, just let it settle into its natural curvature. You can do whatever you want with your hands. Rest one palm on top of the other, interlace your fingers in your lap, or rest your palms on your knees if you want. As long as you feel pretty alert and comfortable, you're golden. Some stock photos of people meditating show them forming little circles with their thumb and index fingers. You can do this if you want, but you don't have to. Some people find that this posture helps them feel alert, and other people don't care. The same is true for your legs. You can do whatever you want with them. If you're sitting in a chair, it's probably best to rest the soles of your feet flat on the floor. If you're sitting on a meditation cushion, you can cross your legs or kneel if that's more comfortable while sitting on the zafu. Many people overthink how they sit during meditation. Again, as long as you feel alert and comfortable, you're good. Just don't overthink it. If I can offer up just one tip for when you next sit, make sure your shoulders don't slump. If you find that your shoulders frequently slump, here's a simple thing to try the next time you meditate. Lift your shoulders upward toward the direction of your ears, pull them back behind you, and then let them fall downward. You'll feel yourself naturally setting into a more alert posture. Doing this will help properly align your spine as well. Finally, the best position for your head that will make you feel alert but at ease is one where you point your head straight ahead of you, but downward a little, so your eyes are pointed to a spot on the floor a few feet in front of you. Just remember to tuck your chin in a little, and you'll settle into a natural, comfortable posture. There is conflicting advice out there about whether you should close your eyes during meditation. My rule for whether you should close your eyes is simple. Do whatever makes you feel most alert and comfortable. Usually this will mean closing your eyes. The mind likes to wander, and it will wander regardless of whether your eyes are open or closed. But it will usually wander more often when your eyes are open in an environment with a lot of visual cues. The most curious thing about the thoughts in our head is that a large number of our thoughts are just a part of a series or chain of thoughts that originated because of some external cue or trigger. For example, while meditating, you may notice your mind wandering to think about a stupid thing you said at a wedding a few years ago. But your mind likely didn't pull this thought randomly out of the ether. Recalling what you said could have originated with something as simple as hearing a dog barking outside while you were meditating. Maybe the sound of that dog barking made you think about your dog in the other room, which made you think about the dog park you like to go to, which made you think about the family friend you ran into at the park a month ago, which led you to think about the stupid thing you said at her wedding. Just yesterday, during a meditation session in a hotel room, I noticed that my mind had wandered to think about whether I would requalify for some meaningless airline frequent flyer program. In this case, I was meditating with my eyes partially open and had noticed the open piece of carry-on luggage in front of me. Without thinking, I saw the brand of luggage, Travel Pro, and the slogan beneath their logo, "The choice of flight crews and frequent travelers." This led me to think about the flights I had coming up for the rest of the year, which led me to think about requalifying for the program. As I'll dig into later, our mind impulsively generates thoughts in response to what happens around us. This happens all day, every day, usually without our awareness. This is one of the primary reasons we shouldn't believe all the thoughts flying around in our head, since so many of them originate because of something we hear, see, or feel. They aren't initiated by us. By closing your eyes during meditation, you make sure there are fewer external cues that set off thought chains in your head. There is one large exception to this, though. Again, at the risk of repeating this point to death, the purpose of a meditation posture is to make you feel alert and comfortable. If you find that closing your eyes makes you sleepy, keep them open, making sure that you rest your gaze slightly in front of you so you're not looking around at all the distracting things in the room. I keep my eyes closed for most meditations, but open them ever so slightly when I feel sleepy or I'm just tired after a long day. Letting some light in helps me feel energized while keeping environmental distractions at bay. What to do with your mind? The breath is what is commonly referred to as the anchor for your attention. Much as the wind, waves, and outside forces apply pressure to a boat after it drops anchor, there will be many things that try to tug your attention away from your breath. Your goal is to notice when your mind focuses on these outside forces and bring your attention back to your breath when it does. The more often you're able to calmly refocus on your breath, the more you heighten your attentional control and train your mind to be able to focus. As you might have already experienced in the 2 guided meditations so far, the mind loves to wander. For this reason, especially at the beginning of your practice, it may be difficult to focus on your breath for even just a few seconds at a time. That's okay, and even to be expected. Your mind has been impulsively generating thoughts throughout your entire life, and there's no magical spigot you can turn off to make this stop. Just do what you can and bring your mind back each time it wanders. Despite what many people think, the purpose of meditation is not to stop yourself from thinking. This is impossible. Your mind will always impulsively generate thought for as long as you're conscious. The purpose of meditation is for you to notice when your mind does think, and then refocus on the breath. In breathing meditation, you can either choose to focus on your entire breath or focus on one place you can feel your breath. The choice is totally up to you. I find that focusing on the entire experience of the breath works best for me. To focus on your entire breath, try to notice everything you can about it. Don't try to control the breath, just notice it. Notice the temperature of the air as you breathe it in through your nose, down your esophagus, and into your lungs. Notice the places the breath is traveling as you breathe in and out again. Notice the way in which your lungs fill up and contract once again as you breathe out. Notice how much air your body is wanting to take in. Notice the small space between your in and out breaths. Notice the sound of your breath. Let the breath occupy your full awareness while you try to notice all you can about it. If you prefer, you can also focus on just one spot that your breath touches or affects. You can focus on just the tip of your nose and how air flows in and out and around it, how your stomach expands and contracts, or how your lungs change size and shape with each in and out breath. Whichever option you choose, notice all that you can, without judgment, analysis, or control. The rhythms and intricacies of the breath are beautiful and fascinating when they occupy your full attention. All that matters is that you calmly bring your full attention back when you notice it's gotten distracted from whichever anchor you choose. Your breath will only occupy your attention for so long. As I've mentioned previously, 3 things will continually tug your attention away from your breath: perceptions, feelings, and thoughts. Perceptions are physical. In meditation, there are usually sensations in your body. Maybe your foot is falling asleep because you're not yet used to sitting on a meditation cushion. Perhaps your shoulders feel a bit tense or your butt is sore from sitting. We usually don't notice the physical sensations in our body because we're busy focusing on other things. But they're there, and we notice them during meditation when there's space for these thoughts to rise to the surface of our consciousness. When your mind wanders to any perceptions you may be feeling during meditation, gently bring your focus back to your breath, perhaps after adjusting your posture slightly so you're a bit more comfortable and alert. As a side note, in the rare case that any physical sensation doesn't go away even after you readjust your posture, you can use that sensation as an anchor for your attention for a bit. Pay attention to what you're perceiving. Where does it live in your body? Where on your body does the sensation start? Where does it end? What are the boundaries of it? How intense is the pain or discomfort? And how does that intensity change over time? Then, once you understand the boundaries of what you're perceiving, bring your attention back to your breath. In being mindful of physical sensations, you're still practicing meditation. It's just that you let the anchor for your attention become what you're perceiving for a while, instead of focusing on your breath. A second thing your mind will wander to are the emotions you're feeling. Like with physical sensations, emotions will come and go. In this way, your mind is like the sky. On a clear day, you're able to look up and see the bright blue colors up above you. But if you look up for long enough, storm clouds will inevitably blow through, obscuring your view. The sky doesn't disappear, it's just covered by clouds that will pass by given enough time. Your mind is the same way. When you sit for meditation, you'll find that some days your mind is sunny and clear. You can see for miles. Other days, dark gray clouds cover everything up. Clouds so large you think they may never pass. But they always do pass. When you find your mind getting caught up in a certain emotion, step back from that emotion and observe your breath once more. This will be hard, especially with emotions that are more intense. But just practice continually getting back up. Each time your mind gets caught up in an emotion, refocus on the details of your breath. In my own experience, my most fruitful meditation sessions are ironically those where I'm constantly having to refocus away from strong or negative emotions. I always feel better after meditating on these days because I'm able to step back from what I'm feeling, even if just for a bit. As a general rule, the more turbulent your mind feels during a meditation session, the better you'll feel afterward, because you've meditated. The mere act of noticing how busy your mind is leads your mind to become less busy. The third thing that will pass through your mind are thoughts. While perceptions and feelings are relatively easy to direct your focus away from, thoughts can be curiously difficult. We spend pretty much our entire lives caught up in what we're thinking. Of the three distractors during meditation, perceptions, feelings, and thoughts, thoughts are by far the most powerful thing that will tempt you away from your breath. Drawing forth the boat analogy once more, if perceptions are the waves that jerk your boat around after it's dropped anchor, and emotions are the weather that passes through and pushes your boat in every which direction, thoughts are the turbocharged engine of the boat you're unable to turn off even after you drop anchor. You will get repeatedly lost in thought during meditation. In fact, your overthinking mind will likely be the greatest challenge you face in meditation sessions, and, for that matter, in life in general. It will often also take you a while to notice that your mind has wandered off to a place deep in some associative chain of thought. You will lose yourself repeatedly. The trick is to notice when you've gotten lost in a thought and to always bring your attention back to your breath. Your mind can sometimes wander for a few minutes before you notice, and that's completely fine and normal. Your mind isn't broken. This is just the way it's wired. Just notice and refocus. Notice and refocus. Notice and refocus. It's actually kind of amusing how much the mind loves to wander. If anything, you shouldn't feel frustrated by your mind's tendency to wander. Feel entertained by it. Where is your mind going to run off to today? It is crazy just how powerful some thoughts can be. Wandering to the past, we vividly remember a painful past breakup and re-experience how it made us feel. Thoughts are so powerful that they don't just lead us to remember past experiences, they make us relive them. Wandering to the future, we think about what we'll do after our meditation session, and then grow impatient with how we need to sit for 10 more minutes. Wandering to think about the present, we think about how uncomfortable our sitting posture feels, and think about whether we're actually benefiting from meditation. We mentally travel through time, bouncing between memories, experiences, and fantasies that come from the past, present, and future. Some days your mind will be at peace, and you'll find it easy to focus. Your practice will be as easy as staring up at the clear blue sky. Other sessions will be the opposite. You'll feel like one of those cable news anchors reporting from the scene of a hurricane, whipped by the wind while standing ankle deep in water, flooding an abandoned street. It's all okay. Sometimes our mind is turbulent, sometimes it isn't. Notice and refocus. To illustrate just how powerful thought can be, there are even some things you'll experience during meditation that don't seem like thoughts that actually are. If you find yourself looking around the room during your practice, this impulse may come from a restless mind trying to squirm its way out of meditation. If you find yourself frequently checking up on how long is left on the timer, this impulse may come from you thinking, subconsciously of course, about how long is left in your session, whether your timer is still running or how long you've been sitting for so far. The same may hold true if you find yourself fidgeting with your hands or feeling bored, sleepy, fed up, anxious, or restless. It is impossible to fidget with your hands without first fidgeting with thoughts in your mind. Thought is powerful and takes many forms. Luckily, you just have to do one thing. Refocus on your breath whenever you find yourself paying attention to anything that isn't your breath. Sometimes the mind is busy. Sometimes it's calm. Sometimes the mind is heated. Sometimes it's level-headed. Sometimes you'll be able to focus on your breath for a few minutes at a time, and sometimes you'll barely be able to focus for a few seconds. It's hard to predict what kind of mind you're going to get. If I can stress one thing, it's this. At times, everyone's mind is busy, heated, and distracted. And at other times, everyone's mind is calm, chill, and focused. It's all okay. Don't fret much about the conditions of your mind. Instead, notice what it's like. There is no such thing as a good or bad meditation session. There are only sessions where you do and do not notice your breath. When your thoughts, feelings, and perceptions take you for a ride, just notice what made your mind wander and refocus on the breath. This is all you have to do. As long as you do this one thing, I promise that your meditation sessions will prove fruitful. Adjusting your mental posture. Meditation can be at times blissful and at other times frustrating. While it does get far less irksome over time, feelings of frustration, boredom, and restlessness will still arise whenever your mind stubbornly refuses to focus. This is why the attitude you walk into your practice with matters so much. During your practice, you'll quickly notice how hard you are on yourself, how judgmental and unaccepting you are of the thoughts that pass through your mind. I challenge you to notice this tendency of your mind and to actively work to combat it by making your meditations more lighthearted and curious. Don't criticize your mind too much. Be okay with whatever passes through it. Meditation should feel lighthearted, and one of the best ways to lighten up on the meditation cushion is to rid yourself of any expectations for how things will go. Remember, there are no good and bad meditations. When you have zero expectations, when you sit for practice, you're able to notice the state of your mind without comparing what your mind is like with what you expected it to be like. Expectations are really just unnecessary thoughts that draw your attention from your breath. This extends well beyond the meditation cushion. High expectations can ruin even the most perfect of lives. When you sit, notice how often your mind wanders to your expectations. Are you hard on yourself when your mind wanders for a while before you catch it? Conversely, do you congratulate yourself when you're able to focus on your breath for a while? Indian philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti once said that awareness without judgment is not only the highest form of human intelligence, but also the expression of love. Love your mind, both by ridding yourself of any expectations you have surrounding your practice, and by not judging what does arise in your mind. Treat your mind like a good friend. Most of our unhappiness and unnecessary mental chatter comes from thinking about the ways we want things to be different, rather than seeing things as they are. Accept your thoughts while recognizing that your mind is wired to impulsively generate them in response to what happens around you. You'll enjoy meditation more, experience stronger benefits, and become kinder to your mind the rest of the day too. On top of being lighthearted, it's also helpful to approach meditation with a genuine curiosity of where your mind will wander to. Meditation is a unique and delightful opportunity to find out where your mind wants to take you. What crazy tangents will it run off on today? What sort of memories will you recall as you try to focus on your breath? How busy is your mind? What ideas will arise during your sit? When your mind runs off on a thought chain, will you be able to identify the sight, sound, or feeling that triggered your mind into getting lost in thought in the first place? Are you extra hard on yourself when your mind wanders for a longer period of time? What memories from yesterday will your mind pull forth as you try to focus? When you approach the practice with genuine curiosity, meditation becomes far more fun, and best of all, meditating with this attitude in mind won't detract from any of the benefits you experience. Now that we've covered what you'll need, how to sit, what to focus on, and what sort of mental posture to walk into meditation with, let's wrap this up into a guided meditation, where I'll walk you through another session. Though this meditation is 2 minutes long like all the others, there will be an opportunity to pause the audio in order to extend the session into a length of your choosing. Again, please do revisit this guided meditation later on if you can't spare that much focused attention right now. Assuming you've got a couple minutes, let's jump in. So welcome to the third meditation of the retreat. So now we've gone through how to sit, what to focus on, and the attitude to bring to meditation. Now it's time to wrap all that together into another quick guided meditation. So I'll set my 2-minute timer. We'll jump right into this one, and let's go. Again, draw your attention to your breath. What's it like today? What's pulling your attention away from it? Just breathe. Let your body breathe. When a thought surfaces, recenter on your breath. When an emotion surfaces, frustration, boredom, restlessness, recenter. All you need to achieve here is a few good seconds. A few good seconds of focusing on your breath. That's all you need to do. Don't try to pressure yourself into doing any more. Be curious. Remember, there's no such thing as a perfect meditation. Breathe as if you're reminding yourself that everything is okay. That whatever thoughts come up don't need to be judged or analyzed. They can be set aside for now. And if you're wondering if you're meditating right, you're meditating right. So with that bell, that's the end of this guided meditation. Again, I feel like a broken record for saying this, but do pause here. Sit for longer if you'd like. You don't have to, but it's a good opportunity to go even deeper into your practice. And if you're pressed for time, don't worry, you will make this time back. Great. And when you're ready, let's continue the retreat. 2 bonus types of meditation. On top of seated mindfulness meditation, there are 2 other kinds of meditation that you should consider adding to your repertoire. Walking meditation and mindfulness, not mindfulness meditation, but a mindfulness practice in general. Though it might not look very similar, the first of the 2, walking meditation, is very similar to seated meditation. You just have a different anchor for your attention. In walking meditation, the anchor for your attention becomes the sensations in your legs and feet. To practice it, walk slowly, bringing your full attention to what you feel as you walk. The feeling of the floor on your feet, how you gradually shift your weight from one foot to the other while stepping, how your body moves when you change walking directions, how your knees naturally bend and straighten as you walk. Pay attention to everything that happens in your feet and legs as you walk, and when your mind wanders elsewhere, bring it back. If you're in a wheelchair, you can also perform a movement meditation by bringing your full attention to the parts of your body where you can observe the sensations as you slowly and deliberately move around the room. However you move, be sure to adopt a posture that allows you to feel comfortable and alert. For me, this means tucking my chin in slightly, maintaining an upright posture, and interlacing my fingers and letting them fall in front of me as I walk. Walking meditation is a great style of meditation for a few reasons. First, on days when you feel especially restless, it's a good alternative to seated meditation because it's more active. The moving body can settle the overactive mind. Second, it's a bit easier to do than seated meditation. There's more to notice in how you walk than there is in your breath, so your mind is less likely to wander. It doesn't have to settle down nearly as much to become immersed in meditation. Because it's easier to do, you also won't experience benefits quite as strong as with seated meditation, but this difference in effect size doesn't prove to be too meaningful in practice. Third, walking meditations are also great for breaking up longer meditations. Some days I'll want to meditate for 45 minutes, but I'd feel sore as hell if I sat that entire time. Sitting for 15 minutes, walking for 15, then sitting for another 15 is a great way to get the benefits of a longer sit while experiencing a fraction of the discomfort. Another style of meditation worth adding to your repertoire is mindfulness. With mindfulness, instead of your anchor being your breath or how you walk, it's the circumstances of the present moment. In short, you notice what you perceive, feel, or think, usually in response to an experience. And when your mind wanders, you of course bring it back. To practice mindfulness, find something habitual that you enjoy doing that doesn't require your full attention. The less thought and activity requires, the better. Your mind will wander more often as a result, and you'll get to refocus on your breath and train your mind more as a result of that. It's easiest to illustrate how to practice mindfulness with a few examples. One of my favorite activities to do mindfully, which doesn't require much thought, is the one I observed the monk doing in the introduction, drinking a cup of tea, or my preference, coffee. To mindfully drink a cup of coffee, just bring your full attention to the circumstances of the present moment, noticing all that you can about what you're doing. Notice the feeling of the cup touching your hand, the steam rising from the cup to hit your face as you bring the mug to your lips. Notice the sensation of the coffee touching your lips and the rich taste of the coffee itself. Notice your impulses to swish the liquid around in your mouth so that you can taste it more fully. Observe the weight of the cup when you go to set it back down again. Notice the aftertaste after swallowing each sip. Notice your body's reaction to taking a sip. Do your shoulders fall while a relaxed smile appears on your face? Notice all you can about what you're experiencing. What do you sense? How do you feel? What thoughts do sipping the coffee lead to? When your mind wanders off, bring it back. In this exact same way, you can also slowly and mindfully eat a meal if you're able to find some time and space to do so. Likewise, chores also work well for something to do mindfully. One of my favorite mindful chores is folding the laundry. When you slow down enough to notice the scent of freshly laundered clothes, how soft they feel to your touch, and the ways individual shirts and pants fold. Odd as it might sound, it's hard not to see doing the laundry as a beautiful experience. The same holds true for preparing a meal, making the bed, or dusting the house. When you pay attention to the things you see, feel, hear, smell, and think, it's hard not to become immersed in and enjoy what you're doing. Set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes so you don't overthink when you'll stop doing the chore, and be present for that amount of time. The less thought a task requires, the more benefits you'll experience by doing it mindfully. Generally speaking, you'll enjoy greater benefits mindfully making the bed than you will mindfully going for a run, because making your bed is a simpler task that requires less attention. Anything that requires your full, focused attention to do is probably not a good fit. Don't worry if you think a chore will be too simple. It's impossible to be both focused and bored at the same time. On top of chores, it's also possible to practice mindfulness doing more passive activities. If you have a daily commute where you ride the bus or take the subway, set a timer to be mindful for a bit. In that time, resist the urge to start listening to an audiobook or a podcast and bring your full attention to what you experience on the commute. How does the subway rock your body from one side to another? What things does your mind get distracted by in the environment around you? What putrid things do you smell after getting off the subway, and what reactions does your body have to them? Much like with seated meditation, you may find that you naturally walk into a mindfulness session with a bunch of expectations. One thing I find my own mind forming expectations around is how long a task will take to do mindfully. Impatience is usually the biggest challenge I personally face when practicing mindfulness. As someone who enjoys getting things done, during mindfulness sessions I frequently find my mind rushing to prep the next bite of food before I'm done chewing the current one, or reflecting on just how long it's taken me to fold laundry, worrying that I'm spending too much time on the activity. If you're the same way, be sure to notice any expectations you have for how long things will take, and set a timer ahead of time if the activity might take you a while. This allows you to define boundaries around your mindfulness practice, which lets you delve into it more deeply. In any one moment of the day, we're either fully experiencing what we're doing or our mind is somewhere else, often impatiently waiting to move on to the next thing. For example, we feel this whenever we have the compulsion to listen to a podcast or an audiobook when driving or folding the laundry. This impulse often comes from a place of wanting to get more accomplished, but it almost always comes because of impatience. The simple truth is that we cannot focus on more than one thing at a time. At best, we rapidly switch between activities that we're doing in parallel, which gives the illusion that we're focusing on more than one thing at a time, much as quickly turning the pages of a flip book gives the illusion of movement. Whenever we try to experience two independent moments at the same time, we prevent ourselves from becoming immersed in either one of them. This leads to a whole host of negative effects. We don't appreciate what we're doing if, say, we're spending time with a loved one. We don't focus with our attention on one thing at a time, which prevents us from getting things accomplished quickly. We incur switching costs each time we transition between tasks. We also fast forward through a small part of our day and a tiny part of our life. Time is the worst thing to fast forward through. By training our mind to pay attention to simple, everyday experiences, folding the laundry, doing the dishes, drinking a cup of tea or coffee at a quiet cafe, we learn to be with whatever's in front of us. It's not just the productivity effects of this simple practice that are profound. It's the fact that you'll have more moments and memories available to you as a result. To cap off this section, let me guide you through a quick 2-minute walking meditation. You'll just need a quiet room that you're able to walk around slowly. Given you might be commuting or busy with other things as you listen to this right now, I encourage you to revisit this one later on if the conditions aren't right. Assuming they are right though, let's dive in. So this is the last guided meditation of the retreat. Hopefully you've found the other ones helpful and that you found the book helpful so far, that it should have everything you could need to get started. And in this one, we're going to mix things up a little bit and practice a walking meditation. So start in a standing position. Take your shoes off if you can, so you can feel the ground beneath your feet. And I'll set a timer for 2 minutes. And go. Start by bringing your attention to the soles of your feet. Feel where your feet touch the floor. Feel how much pressure is on your feet. Now, walk slowly enough to feel the details of every step you take. There's a lot to notice in walking meditation, so pay attention. Pay attention to how your weight transfers between your feet with every step. Pay attention to the ways in which your feet touch the ground. Pay attention to the muscles in your legs as they twitch and activate with every step. And, as always, bring your attention back to walking when it wanders off. You have 30 seconds. So with that bell, I'll invite you to keep going if you want. As always, you don't have to, but consider doing so if you want to explore this type of meditation further. So you should have everything you need now to get started. The techniques for seated meditation and walking meditation, and also for mindfully experiencing the moment. And when you're ready, I'll see you in the next episode. Episode 3. Thinking Too Much. When I'm thinking, then I'm thinking too much. Carly Rae Jepsen. In addition to making you more productive, meditation will also drastically improve your quality of life by letting you step back from unnecessary thought. Most benefits of meditation are simple and straightforward. They don't need to have a huge amount of time dedicated to them. This one does. Here is the counterintuitive notion that I'm going to try to convince you of by the end of this part of the retreat, that thinking is not always a good thing. In fact, thinking too much can ruin your life. If you're a frequent worrier or experience repetitive or anxious thought patterns, you're likely already familiar with how unproductive thoughts can be, especially when you're overthinking. Most thoughts are only worth having one time. Experiencing repeating thought patterns detracts from your ability to focus on what's in front of you, gets in the way of your productivity, and prevents you from becoming immersed in and engaged with what you're doing. How much thinking and overthinking we all do varies. On one side of the thinking spectrum is thinking too little, going through life merely reacting to what happens around you and following the wind where it takes you. Some logical thought is required if you want to live a good life. On the opposite end of the thinking spectrum is thinking too much, overanalyzing everything, unnecessarily ruminating on events, and dredging up past memories and experiences seemingly on a whim. In general, most of us think a bit too much. If you think a bit too much, perhaps you even find it hard to shut your mind off. A time this often happens might be as you're trying to fall asleep. This is a time when your thinking should be winding down for the day. If you're prone to overthinking, though, you may instead be reliving the entire day in your head. You may even begin to overthink the fact that you're overthinking, experiencing a metaform of stress about how your mind won't wind down. At work the following morning, you might start to overthink whether a project you're essentially finished with is good enough to send to the team, when you're really just nitpicking over nothing. After work, picking up a tea at a coffee shop, you may overthink walking over to strike up a conversation with someone that you find cute, or saying hello to someone you know from a competing company that you'd love to work for. We so often live and die by the dialogue in our head. When the content of the dialogue is happy, we're happy. When the dialogue is heated, we're heated. We believe that this dialogue is true, even though it's just a random firing of synapses and neurons in our brain, a series of thought chains that fire in reaction to what's happening around us based on the way our mind is conditioned to think. Meditation settles our mind, so the thoughts that pass through it no longer whip us into a hurricane of thought. The more you notice your overthinking mind, the stiller your mind becomes. When your mind is still, you see things as they actually are. This is what makes stepping back from the thoughts in our head so critical. A great many of our thoughts are just reactions and aren't actually relevant or important. We believe the dialogue in our head and the stories we tell ourselves because we hear them in our own voice. But thoughts are only valuable when they relate to what we're doing or provide us with a valuable insight. Most thoughts do not do this. Each time we notice our overthinking mind during meditation, our mind calms down ever so slightly. In this way, meditation both anchors us to the present moment while increasing the proportion of our thoughts that are truly valuable. All we have to do is sit and notice. The power of thought. Meditation leads you to think more clearly by making your thoughts more relevant and real. This is something that will happen gradually, over time. Generally speaking, you'll begin to notice the positive effects of your meditation practice after a week or two. When you first begin meditating, you may notice just how turbulent your mind really is as you try to control your attention and focus on your breath. This is normal. Every beginning meditator notices just how powerful thoughts can be. Many of our thoughts are weird, random, and irrelevant. They can also take us for a ride. As a simple example of this, let's say your wandering mind leads you to remember a meeting that took place a few months back. Sitting on the meditation cushion, you relive a memory of how your colleague, Jared, slighted you in front of everyone during that aforementioned meeting. At a meeting with the management team, Jared tried to take credit for all the great work you had been doing, without his help, naturally, for about a year. "You know what, everyone?" you remember Jared saying. "We have both been working together quite a bit on this project, and I'm so proud of what we've gotten done here. I know I'm not the only one who loved how this has turned out. I hope this proves as valuable to the company as we both think it'll be. You see management nod their heads in agreement, oblivious to the fact that he did absolutely nothing on the project. You're the only one in the room that knows that Jared didn't do anything. He felt pissed, livid, and in the moment you froze, so taken aback by what he said you couldn't even think of how to defend yourself or your work. You relive this moment in which you feel slighted once more because of your thinking mind, and experience the pain of it once more too. This is the power of unnecessary thought. Absolutely nothing new happened in your life, but your thinking mind led you to feel angry and wronged all over again. After thinking about Jared on the meditation cushion and refocusing on your breath for a bit, your mind might wander to a fantasy about all the things you could have said in response to him. I hope you'll forgive my brashness here, you say to everyone gathered around the conference table, but I've always believed in giving credit where credit is due. Jared might make quite a few valuable contributions to the work we do here, although I must admit I'm not aware of many of them. But truth be told, I can't think of one single contribution he has made to this project. Jared, if you wouldn't mind sharing, can you name one thing right here, right now, that you contributed to this? Jared freezes. The room stares at him for what could be 20 seconds or 20 years. Beads of sweat form above Jared's brow. You feel vindicated. Of course, this didn't happen. These thoughts are just as unnecessary and just as powerful as reliving the original memory. But they lead you to experience powerful emotions just the same. After realigning your mind to focus on your breath, your mind may wander to what actually did happen after Jared spoke up. Your boss stuck up for you. The words she said in front of the room will forever be imprinted on your mind. You know what, Jared? I have been copied on all of the email chains for this project, and if you may forgive my French, Jared, you didn't do jack shit. Are you actually taking credit for this project? Maybe you can tell us. What precise things have you contributed to this deliverable over the last year? Recalling how she stuck up for you, you feel warm and tingly inside. She's always had your back. Recalling Jared stumbling over his words after, a rarity for him, you feel vindicated. People like her are why you love working there so much, and why people like Jared never last too long at the company. But here's the thing. While recalling your boss's words might feel great, this thought is just as needless as the others. It leads you to experience an emotion that is irrelevant to your life in the here and now. The meeting already ended 6 months ago, but you're still in it. In this exact same way, our thinking mind can lead us to think thoughts, whether or not they actually happened, that make us feel every emotion under the sun. A random daydream about your partner passing away makes you feel overcome with sadness, even though nothing in your life changed and your partner is still at home in the other room. Thinking about how you'd spend your days if you won the lottery, you feel a giddy excitement and a weird emptiness when you remember that you're not a gazillionaire. Wandering to think of the bad performance appraisal you got 2 months ago, before you got your workload under control, you feel anxious once again. All of these wanderings are powerful, but all of them are unnecessary. They are not real. Over the course of putting together this retreat, something exciting happened in my own life. I got married. And sure enough, in the days and weeks leading up to the wedding, the things my mind wandered to changed. Our mind often wanders in a way that continues to explore what's presently in the back of our mind. It's for this reason that our mind will wander more often after a busy, stressful day than it might in the morning. We have more things weighing on our mind from the day. As fortune would have it, one of the greatest musical artists of our time, the eminently talented Taylor Swift, dropped a new album around the time we got married. During one meditation session, I found my mind wandering to both the wedding and Taylor Swift. My wife Arden and I had just finished our joint speech, acknowledging everyone who had come to the wedding and how much love we have for each other. We do have one guest who is here to perform our first dance song, I say to the room. I'm really excited to welcome this guest, who's a pretty good friend of mine, up to the stage. With zero fanfare, Taylor walks on stage, just her and her acoustic guitar. Older relatives assume she's a friend. Everyone else in the room looks up at the stage with jaws dropped. My wife and I play it cool, embracing each other for our first dance, while Taylor begins performing her song, Lover. In the fantasy, she also wrote the song just for us. I have to admit that even though I'm a fan of focusing on my breath and focusing away from unnecessary thought, I let this fantasy play out a few more seconds after I noticed it. The thought was still entirely unnecessary and unproductive, but useless as it was, it still did feel pretty good. It's helpful to think of your thoughts as a movie, continually playing in the back of your mind. Some movies are worth tuning into, but unlike with a movie, when it comes to your thoughts, you should not suspend your disbelief and become immersed completely. Your thoughts are not real. The only thing that is real is what's in front of you. You should always realign your attention to your breath after you notice it's gotten caught up in a daydream or fantasy. For the very rare cases that you do indulge, just remember how random and irrelevant most thoughts passing through your mind are. You're observing a movie, not reality. Of course, random thoughts don't just stay in our head. The most powerful ones can also lead us to act differently. When we meditate, we're that boat that has dropped anchor, hopefully unaffected by the wind and the waves. When we're not meditating, though, the wind and waves are still there. We just don't always notice that they're nudging us off course or propelling us to act in a different direction. Many years back, before first trying out meditation, I experienced this firsthand when I first moved away from home to attend university. Sometimes we're able to surf the waves that come up, and other times these same waves can throw us overboard. After moving away from home, my life was uprooted in almost every sense of the term. My high school girlfriend and I had just broken up. I found myself saying goodbye to friends and family in order to attend a school in a faraway city. I went from living at home to living in a dormitory and having to share a room with someone else. I went from attending high school to having a far more intense course load. I became broke and had no disposable income left after paying tuition. And I got thrown into a university environment where alcohol and other diversions were ever-present distractions. Overnight, it felt as though I had swapped lives with someone else. Everyone has different coping strategies for stressful times. Today, I'm happy to say that my impulse is to meditate for more time whenever I'm facing challenges. This way I can observe my thoughts while my mind settles down naturally. Back then, however, my impulse was to indulge in negative coping mechanisms, namely overeating and drinking too much. Whenever I felt a bout of anxiety coming on, instead of tackling it in a productive way, I overindulged in order to distract myself. Stressed about university exams, I found a party I could overdrink at. Girl problems, I ordered all the greasy, delicious food I could from McDonald's value menu. Feeling lonely, I'd find another party so I could drink more still. Of course, negative coping mechanisms such as these are just a temporary band-aid that don't fix your underlying problems. But it's hard to see that when you're immersed inside of your overthinking. After stumbling upon meditation as a strategy a few years later, I could finally notice the thoughts passing through my head and the impulses they led to. I noticed how many escape hatches I had built into my life that I could turn to during periods of stress, including overdrinking, overeating, and playing pointless video games on my phone, all of which led me to disengage with my life. It was a few years after I moved away from home that I discovered meditation, and even after I did, it took some time to notice these impulses. But with time, I became more comfortable with the thoughts passing through my head and learned to accept the changes that were happening around me. My mind settled down. I noticed more, and the thoughts passing through my head affected me less. Noticing them during meditation, I was able to notice how pointless they were the rest of the time, too. Thoughts are perhaps the most powerful force in your life. They can at once lead you to act differently while changing the way you perceive the world around you. Luckily, it's possible to settle your mind through meditation and mindfulness. You just have to notice the thoughts passing through your head. That's it. In this way, meditation probably won't change what you're experiencing. All of your problems won't vanish overnight. But you will relate to them differently because your thoughts flying around your head will settle. You'll see things as they actually are, not as your reactive mind thinks them to be. What you focus on becomes your reality. And when you focus on the random thoughts in your head, they become your world. Meditation helps you notice your thoughts instead of experiencing them as if they're real. This allows you to become one step removed from what you're thinking and not take your thoughts so seriously the rest of the time when you're not seated on the meditation cushion. The relatedness of thought. Thinking is helpful only when our thoughts relate to the task at hand. There are a few exceptions to this, which I'll get to, but for the most part, this holds true. When we're absorbed in a task and we're thinking about that task, we automatically become more engaged and productive with what we're doing. It's when unrelated thoughts enter into our mind that we get into trouble. Meditation settles our mind of thoughts unrelated to what we're doing. This begs the question, what proportion of our thoughts are aligned to what we're doing? This is difficult to measure. After all, it's pretty hard to analyze what's going on in someone's head. The best research conducted on this topic that I found, however, suggests that around half of the time we're thinking thoughts unrelated to the task at hand. Researchers refer to these as task-unrelated thoughts. As we discovered in calculating how much time we earn back through meditation, this leaves us with a lot of room for improvement. Because our mind wanders so much, by increasing our ability to focus just a bit, we can gain back an inordinate amount of time, likely more than the conservative 9-minute estimate for each minute you spend meditating. One of the fun parts of writing this retreat has been upping how long I meditate for each day, just to see what happens. After all, if I'm writing a book about productivity and meditation, why not push my practice a bit to experience even greater benefits? Because the process of writing a book is so thinking intensive, in meditating for 1 or 2 hours every day, I've found that I can effortlessly focus deeper, and that I naturally have a higher proportion of thoughts related to the project. 1 or 2 hours each day is quite extreme if you're not writing a project about meditation, though some authors like Yuval Noah Harari, who wrote Sapiens, great book, meditate for that much, but the effect has been noticeable. It's far easier to become engaged with the writing process and think deeply about this retreat. In meditating for so long each day, I've noticed a few other peculiar and random things, including that while writing the book, I've gotten unusually good at playing billiards. The internal dialogue in my head no longer interferes with the task at hand, to hit a white billiard ball at a colored one. And this makes sense as far as overthinking is concerned. A game of billiards is a relatively simple task that we tend to overthink. This got me curious. What other simple tasks lead my mind to overthink? Could I perform better at them too? One simple activity immediately popped into mind, which for me usually makes my self-talk run rampant. Bowling. So, just a couple days ago, in the middle of the day, I Ubered over to a local bowling alley for a midday game. The place was positively hopping. The entire building was occupied by myself, 2 senior citizens playing 3 lanes over from me, and a sleepy staff member sitting behind a rack filled with dozens of pairs of shoes. At the risk of coming off a braggart, I absolutely crushed it. Of course, there were very few witnesses at the bowling alley, but you'll have to take my word that I bowled far better than usual. My thoughts simply didn't get in the way. It probably goes without saying that I didn't become world-class at either billiards or bowling. Compared to most people, I still suck at both, and it's no wonder, given I play both just a few times a year. But my thoughts didn't get in the way either, and my mind was able to actually focus on the task at hand. I performed at the best of my ability on each game. More central to the theme of this retreat, as I've experienced fewer and fewer task-unrelated thoughts, my performance at work has climbed significantly. Of course, work performance is far more difficult to measure than how well you do at billiards or bowling. But still, the more I meditated, the more positive things I noticed. I became more easily absorbed in what I was doing regardless of how complex or simple a task was. I procrastinated less because I was able to set aside my negative thoughts about tasks and not talk myself out of doing them. We only procrastinate when we give in to the internal dialogue that precedes doing difficult tasks. I became more able to eschew my brain's impulse to give in to distraction, especially while working on complex or aversive tasks. I even noticed that I had less mental resistance to completing certain tasks. Mental resistance is a cousin of procrastination. Much like with procrastination, the resistance that we have to doing certain tasks is made up of the overthinking we do around those tasks. Thus, by training ourselves to be able to step back from our thoughts, we become able to step back from our resistance to specific tasks. This helps us take on tasks that are more complex, challenging, and aversive, tasks that, in other words, lead us to accomplish more. Meditation doesn't make battling mental resistance effortless, but it does arm us in our fight. By noticing mental resistance, we quiet the unnecessary thoughts that mental resistance is comprised of, and as a consequence, our resistance shrinks. As my meditation time has increased, so too has my productivity. While I didn't perform any complex calculations, I'd wager a guess that I more than earned back the extra time I spent meditating, given how brain-hungry writing a book can be. The more thinking your work requires, the more that thinking can get in the way of your performance, especially when you consider that around half of all of our thoughts are task unrelated. Meditation is a surefire way of increasing the relevance of your thoughts, which lets you dive into tasks more deeply and get your work accomplished more efficiently. You'll also bowl a bit better too. When mind wandering is a good thing. When our intention is to focus on and get something done, a wandering mind can prove to be a huge pain. But with that said, there are many times when having thoughts unrelated to the task at hand can be helpful. Actually, forget helpful. There are times when our wandering mind can be extraordinarily powerful when it provides us with insights that are life-changing. The research on the power of our wandering mind is so compelling that, at the risk of appearing self-promotional, I devoted the entire second half of my second book, Hyperfocus, to disassembling what our wandering mind is capable of. In case you've listened to that book already, I won't fully rehash its ideas here, but I will include this brief interlude about how powerful our wandering mind can be. The wandering mind does 3 powerful things, all of which allow us to live a better life. First, a wandering mind provides us with a remarkable number of creative ideas and insights. Just think about how many great ideas you've come up with in the shower. A wandering mind is one that connects information and thus makes us more creative. Second, a wandering mind lets you think about your goals as well as the future. Studies show that our wandering mind thinks about the future 48% of the time, and that we think about our future goals 14 times as much when our mind is wandering compared to when we're focused. We rarely think about our future when we're focused, and in this way, a wandering mind allows us to think and then act more intentionally. Third, a wandering mind lets us rest. We expend mental energy whenever we regulate our attention in one way or another. Because we don't try to force ourselves to focus during mind-wandering episodes, our mind actually gets a break. This provides us with more energy to use later on. A wandering mind can be a pain, but it can also provide us with benefits. So does the fact that our mind is focused more and wanders less detract from how helpful meditation can be? Luckily for us, the answer is no. There are 2 reasons for this. First of all, meditation doesn't stop your mind from wandering entirely. It will mainly help your mind wander less when you're trying to focus on something. The simple truth is that for your entire life, you've been alternating between periods of focus and daydreaming. meditation won't prevent you from continuing to do so. Your mind will still wander automatically between things, as it always has. It'll just wander a bit less overall, because you'll be able to focus deeper when your intention is to do so. The second reason our productivity and creativity won't suffer is that meditation actually helps your mind wander more productively. The task-unrelated thoughts you have will become more valuable. Research shows that as you meditate more, you have even more thoughts about the future and your goals during daydreaming episodes, and fewer thoughts about the distant past. Your mind wanderings become more positive, and your mind dredges up fewer negative and ruminative memories. And because meditation expands your working memory, and you have a larger mental scratch pad to piece together thoughts with, your mind-wandering episodes become even more creative. For these reasons, I purposefully try to integrate episodes of deliberate mind-wandering into my day. I call this deliberate daydreaming mode scatter focus, and I'll enter into it by going on lunchtime nature walks, taking extra long showers, having a waterproof notepad in the shower helps with capturing ideas immensely, and just by laying down for a few minutes with a notepad to see what thoughts arise to the surface of my mind. Some always do. I strongly encourage you to practice a bit of scatter focus each day. It truly is one of those productivity strategies that will let you earn back some of your time. But even if you decide not to, do know that meditation won't just help you focus more clearly and deeply. It will also make those times when you're unfocused, when your mind is wandering, more productive as well. The 2 layers of each moment. As you train your mind to focus on the present moment, and as more of your thoughts relate to what's in front of you, you'll also notice that you experience your life more deeply. Let me explain. There are 2 layers to each moment. There's what we're experiencing, and slathered on top of that is what we're thinking about what we're experiencing. This is a point worth repeating once more. By training your mind to focus on your breath during meditation, and only your breath, it becomes a lot easier to become engaged with other experiences as well. Most of the time, though, we aren't just immersed in what we're experiencing. We're also immersed in our thoughts about what we're experiencing. Our thoughts can be so powerful that at times it can be hard to distinguish between them and our experiences. But by settling your mind, you begin to perceive the world differently. You experience things as they are, instead of thinking about how you wish them to be. Without meditation, our experiences become tangled up in our thoughts, like a moth tangled up in a cobweb. Once you remove unproductive and irrelevant thoughts from the present moment, including thoughts that are judgmental, repetitive, or filled with expectation, you're left with a connection with what you're experiencing. Your comparing mind doesn't automatically become disappointed when things don't go as you expect. Your judgmental mind doesn't look for the bad in things. Your overthinking mind doesn't overanalyze what you're doing. Much of the anxiety we experience comes from overthinking what might happen, rather than from what actually does happen. We even have different names for the overthinking we do across different time horizons. We call overthinking what might happen in the future worrying. We also overthink the past, which we label as guilt. And we overthink the present, which we label doubt or self-doubt. While guilt, doubt, and worry can be informative emotions, unless our behavior is actually causing harm to ourselves or to someone else, these feelings are usually unnecessary. Most of the things we overthink don't end up happening, and it never occurs to us to think about the negative things that do end up happening. Guilt, doubt, and worry often all come from the same source, our overthinking mind. Thankfully, you'll experience less of all 3 when you meditate and as your mind settles. Meditation will provide you with a whole host of added benefits as you deepen your practice, and the best part is that you won't need to do any extra work to experience them. The stories we tell ourselves. In addition to our mind's tendency to overthink, which can lead to our thoughts hijacking our attention and prevent us from seeing things as they are, There's another tendency of our overthinking mind that's worth highlighting, that our thoughts can be quite negative. Much like with episodes of mind wandering, it's quite difficult in practice for researchers to measure the proportion of our thoughts that are negative. After all, how do you measure the temporary, ephemeral thoughts passing through someone's head, especially when such a high proportion of them are subconscious? The most reliable studies, however, suggest that a great deal of our internal dialogue with ourselves is negative, likely more than you think, around 80% of it. When you think about it, that's absolutely crazy. If we talk to our friends the way we talk to ourselves, we'd have few friends left. Some of our thoughts are just partly negative, being a bit hard on yourself that you left the laundry in the machine, rethinking a stupid thing you said to a colleague a few months back, or thinking about whether you have enough money in the bank to make it through the end of the month. But others are far more negative, that you're inadequate, unqualified for your job, or that you'll never get out of the slump you're in. While many of our thoughts have a negative tinge to them, there is one saving grace. Pretty much all of us experience this. This is what it feels like to be human. We evolved to survive through today because of our ability to be on the lookout for threats in our environment. It's not just you that's overly hard on yourself. Everyone is. We also like to tell ourselves a lot of stories about who we are and the life we live. This, combined with the proportion of our thoughts that are negative, is one of the reasons why I think anxiety has gone through the roof over the last several years. Today, we occupy more stories than we ever have before. As we go about our lives, our mind likes to conjure up stories about who we are, as well as the kind of life we live. Most of these stories are attached to our identity, who we believe ourselves to be, and we're forming new stories about us constantly. You may post a few pictures of your healthy meals to Instagram, and after getting a ton of likes, overanalyze every food picture you post afterward. You're a healthy eater. A random, funny video you made goes viral on YouTube, which gives you validation that you're funny and leads you to make more funny videos in the future. You're a funny person. After your boss tells you how great it is that you respond to messages so quickly, you turn on alerts for all of the new emails you receive, as well as for all the new Slack, Skype, Basecamp, Twitter, Instagram, and Gmail messages you get. You're a responsive and reliable person. Before living such complex digital lives, we occupied fewer stories. We were a mother, a husband, a nature lover, a foodie, or a tradesperson. We were an avid reader, a runner, a guitarist, or a woodworker. Today, most of us live two lives, an analog life and a digital life. And this means we occupy more stories than we ever have before. In addition to occupying stories in the analog world, we're also a blogger, a well-informed person who keeps on top of Facebook and the world news, and a networker. We're funny on Twitter, interesting on Facebook, and career-driven on LinkedIn. The digital world leads us to occupy a greater number of stories, and also lets us share tidbits about the analog stories we occupy, which helps us amplify the stories we already consider ourselves to be a part of. We're a nature lover, so we post pictures of our hikes. We're a guitarist, so we post videos of us playing. We're a reader, so we post a steady stream of updates about the books we're in the middle of. But much as though we live and die by the dialogue in our head, when we believe a story about ourselves, we live and die by that story. When we break our leg and can't go on a nature hike for a while, we feel extra bummed out because we can't post pictures. Our guitar breaks and we can't afford a new one and can't make new videos of us playing. We feel a bit hollow because of this. Life gets busy, we have less time to read, and so we can no longer post about our books. We feel as though we've lost a part of ourselves. Of course, the life we live is constantly changing, but we like to think that our stories will remain constant. They never do. Much like imagining what you'd say to get back at Jared in front of the management team, stories are a mental image that we construct about ourselves. Anxiety results when our thought patterns get tangled up with the stories we tell ourselves. This is an especially large obstacle to overcome when you consider our mind's propensity to think about what's negative. When our thoughts relate to the present moment, they're valuable. The rest of the time, they're usually not. Thoughts are random. They're irrelevant. They're negative. They're repetitive. And above all else, they're not real. The only thing that is real is what's in front of you in each and every moment. Thinking deeply is one of the truly wonderful qualities that makes us human. But our ability to think can also lead to unhappiness and even to some suffering when we're not careful. View your thoughts as a movie playing in the back of your mind. While movies can be entertaining and make us feel every emotion under the sun, they're not real. Just as you shouldn't believe in a movie, while many thoughts are valuable, you shouldn't consider your thoughts to be a part of who you are. Luckily, meditation isn't just a powerful technique to train your mind to focus and become more productive. It's also a technique that lets us change the channel. Episode 4, Making It Stick. If I miss 1 day's practice, I notice it. If I miss 2 days' practice, the critics notice it. If I miss 3 days, the audience notices it. Ignacy Paderewski, pianist. At this point in the retreat, we've covered how to meditate, along with what benefits you can expect out of a practice. Before sending you on your way, let's cover one final topic: how to actually make your newfound meditation habit stick. Just knowing that a habit is good for us is not enough for us to stick with it. Ironically enough, usually the habits that are best for us are the toughest to stick with. We know that we should be eating more healthfully, but that means nothing when there's a half bag of Doritos sitting in the cupboard. We know that we should be exercising more, but we also know that we need to catch up on Game of Thrones and that there's free delivery tonight on Uber Eats. We know that we're distracted, but can't resist refreshing Instagram one last time and getting one more hit of distraction. Meditation is also like this. It's great for us, but because meditation requires mental exertion, we often resist doing it. Over the decade or so in which I've had a consistent meditation practice, I can recall a bunch of times when I've fallen off the wagon and stopped meditating for a couple of weeks at a time. To get back into my practice, I tried out a bunch of strategies which made meditation more fun, friendly, and likely to stick. Not all of the strategies worked, but many did. In this section, I'll cover the 5 that I think you'll find to be the most helpful as you work the habit into your life. The 2-minute rule. The first strategy is a very simple one, the 2-minute rule. Here's the rule. Every single day, sit for at least 2 minutes of meditation, or practice at least 2 minutes of mindfulness. The rule is to do this no matter what. You can keep going past the 2-minute point if you want, but you never have to. Whatever you need to do to meditate for 2 minutes, do it. If you're in meetings all day long and will have absolutely zero time when you get home, sit in a bathroom stall and focus on your breath for 2 minutes if you have to. If you absolutely cannot fathom sitting for 2 minutes of meditation, set a timer for 2 minutes and just watch it tick down while focusing on your breath occasionally. The rule works because you can do pretty much anything for 2 minutes, including, of course, meditation. To help me write this part of the retreat, I sat down with the author James Clear. James is the author of Atomic Habits, a book on habits that has been translated into 50 languages and at the time of recording has sold millions of copies. If anyone knows habits, it's James. James thinks of the 2-minute rule as a gateway habit. According to him, quote, if we have this initial 2-minute daily habit, we then have a habit that we can optimize and get better at. We have some raw material to work with and build upon. Instead of biting off more than we can chew or trying to have the perfect plan in the beginning, we can actually master the art of showing up. End quote. For me, mastering the art of just showing up on my meditation bench each day has been an invaluable strategy for sitting every day and getting back on the wagon. It also works remarkably well for when you're first starting out. On top of the 2-minute rule, there's another fun rule that works well for meditating every day. To find your resistance level to the habit. This is a strategy that I discovered from my friend John Kropp, who is also a meditation teacher. Some days your mind will be still, and you'll feel like meditating for 30 minutes. Other days your mind will be noisy, and you won't want to sit for 30 seconds. On days when your mind is putting up a fight, feel out your level of resistance. Have a conversation with yourself, saying something along the lines of, "Can I meditate for 30 minutes today? No way in hell. 15? Still no. 10? No. At 5? Actually, I could probably do 5. Then sit for 5 minutes. You can do more if you want, but you never have to." The regularity of your meditation habit matters far more than how long you meditate for overall. Unlike with some other habits, with meditation, consistency trumps duration. 2 minutes of daily meditation are far better than 2 hours of meditation every Sunday. To help form your habit, do at least 2 minutes every single day. And if you want, reflect on your level of resistance to find a different amount of time that works best for you. Cultivate the right conditions, but not the perfect conditions. Often we don't stick with the meditation habit because we don't set ourselves up for success. I recall one time I had stopped because the only time I gave myself for the practice was after a day's worth of work. At this point in the day, I was usually wiped and felt a lot more like laying on the couch than sitting for meditation. Even walking and mindfulness meditation felt out of my reach. Then I made a simple tweak, which got me back on the wagon. I began meditating in the morning before work when my energy was significantly higher. It's important to cultivate the right conditions for your meditation practice. Naturally, having a quiet room in which you won't get distracted or interrupted is important. But there are 2 other factors to consider: the time of day when you have the most energy, and the time of day when your mind is the stillest. Our energy and focus move in tandem. Therefore, your meditation sessions are likely to be the deepest when your energy is the highest. If your energy is high in the morning before work, that's a great time to sit. If you're more of a night owl and have more energy in the evening, then that's probably a better time. According to James, habits are also more likely to stick when we stack them together, when we perform the same habits in sequence after one another. For this reason, it can be helpful to meditate each day right after or before a different habit. Right after you wake up, right before you go to sleep if you usually have energy then, or right before or after your morning coffee or gym routine. Also pay attention to when your mind is stillest throughout the day. If you find that your mind is clear after your morning swim or after your afternoon run, then that's a great time to meditate, especially if your energy happens to be higher then. If your mind and energy are both strong after your daily dog walk, then that's a great time. As it relates to our mental clarity, the morning is usually best because our mind isn't revved up from the day's activities. We often also have a bit more energy then, so we're able to focus on our breath without falling asleep. It's important to mention that, while there are some conditions that will aid your meditation practice, it's important not to try to find the perfect conditions. Some days the only time you'll have to sit will be after work or in the evening, and that's fine. Again, the regularity of your practice trumps how long you sit for. Don't expect perfection. On days that the stars don't align, your mind is busy and your energy is low, just find a few minutes. Remember, you only need to find 2. In general, whenever you can, sit when your energy is high and your thinking is low. Mind the stories you tell yourself about meditation. Meditation is challenging to do. This is precisely what makes it worthwhile. We become more productive by doing the hard things. The fact that meditation is hard, of course, is also what leads us to put it off. Whenever your mind doesn't want to do something, it will tell you a bunch of stories about why you shouldn't be doing that thing. This is all procrastination is, when we give into the stories we're telling ourselves about a task we find aversive. A couple of times when I've fallen off the bandwagon, I've found my mind telling me things like that I'm simply too busy on a certain day to sit, or that I don't have the time for meditation, an excuse I chatted about earlier. Or perhaps I'm in the middle of a heavy period of work travel and I'm telling myself that I need to work, not focus on my breath. During busy times at work, I also find my mind telling me that meditation is a nice thing to do, something that doesn't really help me out, and so I can skip it. At the end of the day, stories like these are excuses not to meditate, not reasons. In coaching some executives to develop a meditation practice, I've found that the habit is significantly more likely to slip when they're busiest at work. When we're at or over capacity with our work, we tend to convince ourselves that we have no time for anything when we get home, when in fact we do. During busy periods, we feel guilty about not working or taking any amount of time to recharge, even though recharging through meditation actually allows us to earn back a significant amount of time. In our conversation, James offered up a helpful analogy with regard to how repeating the habit every day matters more than almost anything else, and why we shouldn't let stories interfere with our practice. A meditator himself, James has also given up on the habit a few times. As he told me, whenever I feel like giving up, I think about the stone cutter who takes his hammer and bangs on the rock 100 times, it doesn't show a crack. But then, on the 101st blow, the rock splits in two. The stone cutter knows that it wasn't the 101st blow that did it, but the 100 that came before that one. The benefits of meditation are like that. It's not the most recent meditation session that brings you calm and reduces stress in your life. It's all those that came before. Be kind to yourself. Meditation lets you become kinder to yourself because it helps you step back from some of the negative thoughts and stories in your head. Despite this, we're pretty tough on ourselves as we try to meditate. I find that this is especially the case when I stop practicing for a week or two at a time. Because I write about meditation in my books, I expect myself to be perfect and meditate every single day when I'm obviously far from it. Conveniently, I find that the kinder I am to myself when I resume meditating again, the easier it is to reintegrate the habit into my life. There are countless ways to become kinder to yourself as you develop your practice. Make the habit as frictionless as possible. You can do this by investing in the strategies I've already mentioned, like picking a consistent time of day, stacking meditation with another habit like waking up, brushing your teeth after drinking your morning coffee or tea, or after the gym, by shrinking your resistance, and by starting small and noticing what changes. Do your favorite habits mindfully. Ask yourself, which simple habits in your life do you savor the most? If you're like me and you love to eat, try enjoying a mindful meal without distraction. If you love your morning latte, set a timer for 5 minutes and mindfully drink it in order to savor it fully. If your favorite part of your morning is your run, go for the occasional mindful run, bringing your full attention to the experience, noticing your breath, movement, and pace. Doing things you enjoy reinforces your mindfulness habit and lets you have more fun while you're at it. Remember, any simple habit that doesn't require your full attention works as an activity to do mindfully. Mix up the style of meditation you practice. Seated meditation is a great type of meditation to practice, but remember, especially on days you're resisting the habit, that there are others available to you. On days when my mind feels especially restless, I'll practice walking meditation instead. If I feel like sitting, but then I need a bit more encouragement, I'll find a great guided meditation online or on YouTube. Treat yourself. The benefits of meditation are profound, but they're usually not immediate. A great strategy for becoming kinder to yourself as you meditate is to treat yourself. Reward yourself in whichever way you genuinely enjoy. You can, for example, give yourself 2 minutes to spend on your social media accounts for every minute you meditate, and not allow yourself to access the accounts otherwise. One strategy I've used to great success has been to treat myself to a nice lunch for every 150 minutes of meditation I've done, or, in other periods, for every 15 days of consecutive meditation. If you can't tell, food is my greatest weakness. Use whatever motivates you as a guilt-free reward for meditation. Don't deal with challenging emotions alone. Our mind wanders to some curious places during meditation, and if you've experienced some trauma in the past, you may find that your mind wanders to relive such experiences, much as it might throughout the day. While meditation is a solo journey, you don't have to go at it alone. In fact, you shouldn't. If challenging emotions should arise, have someone that you can talk to about them. A friend, counselor, or anyone else who might be able to provide you with support. Start a capture ritual. Luckily, aversive memories aren't the only thing that arise during meditation. We keep a lot of other stuff in our head too. In your mind, you store unresolved commitments, tasks you need to complete, people that you need to call, and problems that you're in the middle of solving or have put off thinking about. Any or all of these items may arise in your mind during a session. So what should you do when your mind brings up something that you need to do that you want to remember for later on? One option is to capture unresolved open loops like these during a sit, but this can lead us to meditate less deeply and experience fewer benefits from our practice. On the other hand, when we don't capture them at all, they can slip out of our attentional grasp, and this can make us lose track of things and make us less productive later on. A great strategy for dealing with these open loops that arise is to set aside a few minutes at the end of your session to capture all of the thoughts and ideas that came up. If you have 20 minutes to sit, spend 15 of those focusing on your breath and 5 capturing or journaling about whatever actionable things arose. This way, fewer things will slip through the cracks and your meditations will be deeper to boot. How kind have you been to yourself in your meditation practice so far? You don't have to invest in every single strategy I just mentioned, but if you have been a bit tough on yourself, do pick a few of these strategies to try out. After meditation does become a habit, meditation becomes significantly less challenging and aversive with time, especially once you do it consistently enough to make it a habit. Every experienced meditator I know has fallen off the wagon a few times, and that's totally fine. What matters is that you get back on. In the long run, like with any habit or routine, boredom can be the greatest challenge you face in maintaining your meditation practice. Finding a local meditation group, using a timer app that tracks your streaks for how many consecutive days you sit, and having an accountability partner, preferably someone you know who also wants to meditate, who can keep you on track, are all helpful strategies for sticking with the habit in the long term. You can also consider journaling about your habit and reflecting on how you work and live differently because of meditation. I'm confident that once you compare your life before and after the practice, you'll want to stick with it. One other solution for jump-starting your practice is to consider attending an organized meditation retreat. Most of the time, I have a consistent daily meditation habit where I meditate for 30 minutes. When I notice this habit waning every 6 months or so, I'll almost immediately enroll in a meditation retreat. Every meditation retreat is different, but in one, you'll usually sit for meditation for several hours a day with a group of meditators in between eating delicious meals, going on walks, retreats are usually in pretty scenic places, and maintaining silence the rest of the time. A retreat sounds daunting on the surface, but especially if you attend a beginner's weekend retreat, in practice it'll be easier than you think. Every single retreat I've attended has lit a fire underneath my practice. Afterward, I'm usually motivated to meditate for much more than 30 minutes a day. It's worth noting that you might find yourself compelled to do some research before attending a retreat. Many integrate teachings from Buddhism in case that's a deal breaker for you. With that said, most retreats are welcoming of everyone, including if you practice a religion other than Buddhism or don't have a spiritual practice at all. Knowing how to meditate and what benefits you can expect is great, but this knowledge is useless if you don't make meditation a habit. Make your meditation habit stickier by practicing every single day for at least 2 minutes, cultivating the right conditions for your practice, minding the stories you tell yourself about meditation, becoming kinder to yourself, and keeping yourself excited about meditation in the long term. before you go. If you've been keeping an eye on how much time is left in this audio retreat, you'll likely have noticed that things are beginning to draw to a close. Before you go, though, there's time to discuss one final benefit of meditation, that it helps you live a longer and better life. It is both a strength and weakness of this retreat that it focuses on productivity. It's a strength because the productivity benefits of meditation are countless, immense, and in practice quite profound. But it's also a weakness because the non-productivity, general quality of life benefits are numerous and marvelous just the same. Experiencing greater happiness is perhaps the largest among these benefits. The research surrounding our happiness is fascinating. In general, we tend to deploy two main strategies for becoming happier. The first strategy we try is changing what we experience. Uncomfortable with our current situation, we buy a bigger house, go shopping for more things, and buy a nicer car because we think these things will make our life better. The science tells us that this strategy is pretty bad at actually making us happier. We do get a jolt of happiness when we buy something new, but this feeling is fleeting. We quickly have to buy something else new once the feeling fades in order to feel that same jolt of happiness once more. This is a phenomenon in psychology known as hedonic adaptation, which suggests that we almost always settle back into the same level of happiness after getting accustomed to a new situation, regardless of whether that new situation is better or worse. Much as our mind is wired to think about the negative, it's wired to see the deficiencies in our life and in our possessions. Once we get used to the shiny new things we buy, we inevitably encounter something even better than what we just bought. If we didn't get used to the new stuff we buy, we'd actually stay pretty happy. But we do get used to things, and so they don't make us any happier. The science tells us that the person who travels on business class flights every weekend is just as happy as someone who travels economy class every week. This is probably not true for the first few flights or even the first month or two. But after that point in time, the business traveler and the economy traveler settle into the same levels of happiness because we all get used to what we have. Though one of those travelers probably does experience a bit less back pain. We get used to what we have, and so our possessions provide us with less happiness than we think. This is not to say that we shouldn't actively try to make our situation in life better. Becoming better is what living a good life is all about. But continually striving for more is far from an ideal strategy to live a good life. The second strategy for becoming happier, which works a hell of a lot better, is to change how we relate to what we experience. Our happiness comes less from what we experience and more from how we relate to our life. This is particularly the case with the expectations we have surrounding how things will unfold. We filter our experiences through our thoughts and expectations. If an experience exceeds our expectations, we feel amazing. If an experience falls short of our expectations, we feel disappointed. If an experience matches up to our expectations, we feel no better or worse than we did before. If you open an iPad-shaped box underneath a Christmas tree that you got from your rich uncle and find a framed picture inside, chances are you'll feel a bit disappointed. If you open the same box and find $20,000 of cold hard cash, you'd feel pretty damn great. If you open the box and get the iPad you expected, you'll probably feel no more or less happy than when you started, even though you just got a new iPad. Meditation dramatically increases our quality of life, not only because it lets us experience more moments, but also because it weights our attention to focus on the present moment. Instead of becoming wrapped up in our thoughts and expectations, we experience things as they unfold in front of us and accept how they change. You don't have to worry. Meditation won't lower your standards or turn you into a passive person. But it will help you appreciate your life however it happens to unfold in front of you. We learn to get wrapped up in what's in front of us, not in our thoughts. We become engaged with our experiences, not our expectations. Happiness comes when we desire things to be as they are, and when we become engaged with what we're doing. We can't be engaged with something while wanting it to be different at the same time. A boost of happiness is the first unexpected benefit you'll experience from meditation. There's one other benefit you'll experience that is just as strong and perhaps just as unexpected. Meditation will help you live longer. It doesn't just let you earn back time and spend your time more efficiently. It helps you experience more time. Let me explain. Let's draw forward once again the conservative assumption that instead of focusing on what's in front of you 53% of the time, your meditation practice conditions your mind to be able to focus on what's in front of you 70% of the time. Focusing this much more on what's in front of you has profound implications for your quality of life. By conditioning your mind to focus more often throughout the day, you experience more moments of your life and accumulate more memories as a result. Playing with your kid on the living room floor, you become immersed in the moment. Your mind doesn't wander off to think about worries at work. Mentoring an intern that just started on your team, you're able to genuinely help them set a course for their career instead of impatiently thinking about the emails you have waiting for you when you get back to work. You enjoy every second of a vacation you're on without your mind wandering and becoming disengaged. You can bring your full attention to how the sun feels, how that pineapple-infused pina colada tastes, and how lucky you are to be soaking in the sun with the one you love. By paying greater attention to your days, more memories become available to you. Your life stays the same length, but you essentially live for longer. Assuming that you live to the average life expectancy in the United States, around 80 years, and sleep for 8 hours a day, you'll spend a total of 53.3 years of your life awake and conscious. This is a good amount of time to do things with, but if you're just focused for 53% of those waking hours, you're really only alive for 28.3 years. That's the span of your life, 28.3 years. If you train your mind through meditation to focus a bit more on what's in front of you, increasing your focus from 53 to 70%, you can now spend 37.3 years engaged with what you're doing. In essence, your life becomes 9 years longer because of your daily meditation practice. You're alive for the same number of hours, but you're engaged with more of them. Making back 9 minutes for every minute of meditation is great. Experiencing 9 more years of your life is even better. A quiet cup of coffee. Each night, I use an app on my phone to track my sleep quality. As much as I hate sleeping with my phone within arm's reach, even with it on airplane mode, I find the app invaluable in determining the quality of my sleep. Last night, I couldn't get to sleep. It was a Friday night, my wife Arden was away traveling for work, and I was feeling restless because I had a couple too many espressos while out for dinner with friends. My thoughts didn't race too much, but I had far too much energy to get to sleep, no matter how hard I tried. This morning, when I woke up, my sleep quality percentage in the app was an abysmal 31%, the lowest I recall it being in years. With an empty schedule and not much to do, I decided to head to a small coffee shop down the street from where I live. I got a cup of coffee to go, but on a whim, decided to sit down and enjoy it for a few minutes. Because the errand was short, the coffee shop is a 2-minute walk from the house, I didn't bring my phone or headphones with me. I had no choice but to just enjoy the cup of coffee for a few minutes. I drank half of it and then left. While there, enjoying that cup of coffee, I appreciated every single dimension of the experience. The taste of the coffee, the quiet atmosphere of the cafe, the sidewalk crossing outside. Every single sip was delicious. Sitting in the quaint little cafe, I experienced the warm sunlight hitting my face from outside. I watched sleepy coffee shop patrons come and go, while a bunch of others sat at square tables typing away on their laptops. Every several seconds, I'd bring the cup to my lips once more, smelling the rich aroma of the hot liquid before taking a sip. It was the tastiest cup of coffee I had had in years, even though it's the exact brand I drink every day or two. In that simple moment, the experience of sitting drinking that cup of coffee became my entire world. I was engaged with what was in front of me and felt happier because of it. From the outside in, I probably looked a bit like a psychopath who doesn't bring their phone or laptop into a coffee shop. But in my mind, in that moment, the cup of coffee was richer, more meaningful, and more delightful than any digital distraction could ever have been. I understood what the monk had found in the quiet cup of tea that I had observed him drinking about a decade ago. Think of the best meal you've ever eaten. Were you focusing on it with your full attention? What about the best and deepest conversation you've ever had? Were you paying attention to that fully? What about the best love you've ever made, the best movie you've ever seen, or the best book you've ever read or listened to? Were you focusing on them with 100% of your attention? I'd wager a guess that the answer is yes. Meditation is a simple habit, but it's in this simplicity that its power lies. Chances are you came to this retreat to learn how meditation aids productivity, while perhaps also looking for guidance for how to get started with a practice of your own. If that's what you came for, I hope this retreat helped you out. But as you invest in your meditation habit in the months and the years ahead, I hope you find even more than this. I do hope you make 9 minutes back for every minute you spend on your meditation cushion. But I hope the quality of your experiences becomes so much richer that you make back 9 years of your life as well. I hope meditation gives you the capacity to live and love more deeply. And I hope you notice more meaning around you as well. Meditation is a habit that minute for minute will provide you with one of the highest possible returns on your time. You'll quickly notice all of the ways in which your life will change. You'll find that over time, your conversations will become a bit richer. Your meals become a bit tastier. You'll be able to focus deeper and with greater ease. You'll become more patient, more grateful, and more engaged with your life. Your relationships will deepen, and of course, you'll accomplish a surprising amount more at work. As you might imagine, as someone who writes about productivity for a living, I care about how productive I am quite a lot, probably more than I should. This is why I continue to meditate each day. The benefits really are that strong, as I know you'll quickly find out. But here's another truth. If I were to win the lottery and retire tomorrow, I'd still keep up with my practice. It hasn't changed how I live my life in the slightest, but it has completely changed how I perceive the life that I do live, and I'm a better person for it. By being with your breath, you learn to be with your life. The productivity benefits of meditation are nice, but staying present with and appreciating your life as it unfolds in front of you is what meditation is all about.
This has been an Audible original, produced by Audible Originals, written and performed by Chris Bailey. Executive producers Andrew Eisenman and Thomas Mann. Directed by Jesse Einstein. Edited, mixed, and mastered by Aviji. Acquisition and development, Joanne Peretz. Vice President of Audible Studios, Mike Charzik. Editor-in-Chief, Audible Original Publishing, David Blum. Copyright 2020 by Chris Bailey. Sound recording copyright 2020 by Audible Originals, LLC.
Audible hopes you have enjoyed this program.